Hey everyone, it is Saturday, December 14th, and this is episode number 4 of Super GameTalk Turbo HD Remix. I am your host, Capanius, and as always I am joined by what many consider the greatest Let's Player of our generation, Vertigo Tea Party.
Thank you. Yes, I agree.
We are here once again to get some in-depth discussion on the games we've been playing and some of the latest game news. So to start us off, what have you been playing, Johnny?
Didn't actually play a lot this week. Played an independent game called Gomo. It's an interesting little game. It's an adventure game, a point-and-click adventure. Don't see a lot of those, except at a Daedalic Entertainment recently. Unfortunately, it fell a little short for me. I actually beat the game when I was testing it for my Let's Try. It only took about 2 hours to beat. I think it's only like 8 hours, but there wasn't really anything special about it. There wasn't any interesting gimmicks. The story was kind of bland. Basically, the idea is you're this weird creature person called Gomo, and aliens have abducted your dog, and they want to trade him for some crystal, and you have to go get the crystal to give them for the dog.
That's a little cliche. I mean, everybody's done that story before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100 times. So the puzzles were super easy. I think that's where my big problems. There was no sense of accomplishment from beating the puzzles. It was always pretty obvious. Like, for example, one puzzle, you walk into this area, and there's like a locked door. So you're like, okay, well, I can't do anything with that. So you go upstairs, and there's a key upstairs. So you grab the key, go downstairs, unlock the door. Behind the door there's like a generator. So you turn that on, and you go back upstairs, and now this machine that wouldn't work before, now it works, and you use it to progress. So it was like really, really simple. There was like 1 or 2 puzzles that were a little tough, but everything else super easy. I think it might be an okay puzzle game for like kids.
Yeah. Maybe. Was there a lot of combining of things, or not one of those games?
It didn't do a lot of combining. In any given time, you also never had more than like 3 items on you, max. So even if it did boil down to the old point-and-click cliche of, okay, combine A with B, combine A with C, combine B with C, and then trying to click on every item you have in inventory with items in the world, it wouldn't take you long, and that almost never happened. I mean, if nothing else, most puzzle solutions were logical. I think we've mostly left that age of adventure games where it's like, combine the cat with the pineapple to,
That totally makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like those just ridiculous solutions back in the day. But so that was pretty good. I played more Dead Rising 3 yesterday. We were supposed to play D&D, and it got canceled after a friend of mine already had come over. And I mostly ended up playing it for about like 6 or 7 hours. It's really, really good. I really like it. If you like Dead Rising, you'll like this game. If you didn't like the other Dead Risings, you probably won't like this game.
Now, I've heard they've taken out some of the Dead Risingness of it. There's not as much, I guess, timed. Like, you have a limited amount of time to do things. That was kind of a staple of Dead Rising, and they took that out, right?
It's still there. Some of it's not explained that well. You have time things like you'll get a call, and it's not as bad as the phone calls with whatever the guy's name is in Dead Rising 2. That one was oh wait, no, the first one was the one with the phone calls were really, really bad and annoying. But the first one was bad because you would talk to him on the phone, and then if you got into a fight, you had to drop the phone or put the phone away and get in a fight, and they call the guy back, and he'd be like, wow, how rude. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm busy murdering.
You do realize that there's a zombie invasion going on right now.
Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous. So they've streamlined a lot of that. Now when you get a call, you press up, and I guess it's Bluetooth because the guy just starts talking. The time stuff, I didn't have a problem with, but I absolutely could see how people had a problem with it in the old games, because you kind of want to explore and do things, but the timer's kind of always there, like shadowing you.
It's kind of restrictive.
Right.
I think that's why Majora's Mask is another like really divisive Zelda game. Is that had some element of you have to do these things in a certain amount of time, and historically, Zelda has not been a series like that.
Right.
You know.
Well, this game still has timers in that you'll get a call and he'll say, "Hey, I see somebody stranded on the interstate. You might want to check it out." And you'll have a set amount of time that you can talk to and complete that quest. But so far, the timer's been very generous, and I've only not been able to finish one side mission. And that was because I spent a lot of time like messing around, just running around, killing things. So, and that was near the very beginning, so I was still very much like just, fiddling around with everything. And so you still have a timer for the main quest, but I don't understand exactly how it works, because you supposedly have 5 days until everything's going to be nuked. And you can see your chapter progress, and you can see how many chapters there are in the main quest. But there isn't. The other games were set such that, okay, you need to finish chapter 2 by noon on Tuesday, or you've completely failed the entire story quest. This one seems to be, you can do it whenever you want. But I think, from looking at it, it seems like they're saying, okay, you have to beat this. You have to beat it all within 5 days of in-game time. So it's kind of the other way around. It's still timed, but I think like you could knock it all out pretty quickly if you wanted to. Again, that's just kind of my take on it. It's hard to tell. Exactly.
Do you have any indication of how far along you are in the storyline to compare it with how many days have progressed? Or?
Yeah. There is a chapter progress. You can see how many chapters there are.
Okay.
You can't see how far you are in that particular chapter,
right?
But I think you can make a semi-decent guess as to how far you are.
So where are you currently?
I'm actually only on chapter 3,
and
total I've probably spent at least 12-ish hours, probably more than that, playing. So
you're still on the first day, or
no? I'm on like day 3 or something.
Okay. So you're more than halfway through the number of days you're allowed,
right?
And you're only on chapter 3,
right?
So is it typical you're not going to finish the game on the like you have to go through multiple times?
I think it's very possible that I don't finish all the main quests. We'll see. I actually wouldn't mind, even if I don't, going through again and just focusing on making sure, because like I said, a lot of this time it's been just kind of farting around because there's so much stuff to do as far as stuff to find. There's like 101 different weapon combination blueprints that you can find. There's like 3 different types of collectibles, I think 3 or 4 different types of collectibles. There's random survivors you can find. Another thing they fixed, because it really does seem like they've listened to what people don't like, because before, one thing that people hated was you go and rescue survivors and now you have to escort them back to the safe house, which was always
that's when I put Dead Rising 1 down. It's like, forget that, because the AI of the people you're escorting was terrible.
The second one kind of went the direction, like the complete opposite direction, because the best choice was almost always to just run. Like, get the hostages and run. And the hostages, I think they overcompensated that the hostages were not the hostages, the survivors, it was much easier for them to get away. So it was just run. Don't try to clear a path. This one, when you rescue like random survivors that you run into, all you have to do is clear X number of zombies around them, and they'll be like, "Hey, thanks, I'm good now," and they'll just run off, and you get to.
That's a good compromise. I mean, you still have to immediately protect them, but you don't have to babysit them.
Right. It still is not perfect, because there are some survivors that you do quests for, and then you can get them like as a companion, but they still. Like they're trying to do what they can, I guess, because they've given them like extra hit points and and all that, and you can of course give them weapons, and even your combination weapons, and they don't ever like break. So you could give them a pistol with 1 bullet, and they can shoot forever, but they still just die way too quick. Like even if I clear tons of zombies out, it gives them just enough time to get overwhelmed. So you absolutely just cannot take them through super crowded zombie areas. You have to. They're good about keeping up though. So I think if you try to hang to the back alleys and stuff where there's not so many zombies, I think it'd be a lot easier to get away. And you don't have to. If they die, it's they die. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some kind of bonus at the end for leaving them alive, probably an achievement. But I haven't. I mean, I try to keep them alive, but I think I've only gotten 2, and the longest one survived for like 5 minutes. And that's because I kept finding food for him to give him to keep him alive. So they could use, but they have stats too. So he had pretty crappy stats. So it might just be a thing where he's not meant to live because he's not a good fighter.
As you progress, I guess, do you, like, say you play this game again, will any of those hostages have better stats? Or not hostages, sorry. Any of those survivors have better stats?
Why are they hostages? We both call them hostages. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think they can. I don't know if they can level or anything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's like set in stone or how all that works. There's even perks. I don't know. It's just funny. Like pretty much every aspect of Dead Rising 1, at least, has pretty much been improved. Like everything people had complaints about. For example, like when you level, you don't just get like it's not random, but you actually get to pick what you want. Like in the first one, it was like this level you get extra inventory. This level you get extra life. This one you get attribute points, and then you have these categories like ranged, melee, health, whatever, and you spend those points to improve them. You can also use those points to relax the restrictions on combinations, which in some cases I think is flat out broken. For example, there's this one really nice weapon. You have to combine, I think it's like a bat with a pipe, and both of these weapons are categorized as blunt weapons.
A bat pipe.
Yeah, a bat pipe. Some of the item combinations, like you're like, that looks nothing like it, but that's okay because this is Dead Rising. But you can, for 1 point, you can unlock the ability that says, okay, any recipe that requires an item marked as blunt, I can use any blunt weapon.
Okay.
So I could just take 2 bats and put them together, or 2 pipes, or 2 chairs. Like I took like a bat and a chair and combined them to create that once. So, in
a sense, though, it's like that's Dead Rising for you. It's like this Dead Rising goofiness.
It's what's so funny is they do try to put a little bit of an interesting story in there, and try to get you to identify the characters a little bit.
Okay,
but like there's so much crazy insanity in the game.
It's kind of I think
weird,
it's kind of silly that they tried to do that at all.
Yeah,
because it doesn't seem very possible in a Dead Rising context.
Yeah, I mean, especially because the costumes are there. Like my character currently is wearing like a schoolgirl skirt, like a Daisy Duke top, and like the giant Lego head. So like when he goes in a cinematic and it's all serious, he's got this giant Lego.
But in some ways, that's awesome. That's even better.
I love that.
Like that. It's good that they are adding like serious cinemas on there when you can wear the stupidest stuff. Yeah,
I mean I say that if you didn't like Dead Rising, you won't like this one, but I mean they have fixed a lot of things. You can save at any time. It saves your progress. So if you save in the middle of a battle and then quit out and come back and load it, you'll back at like the closest like safe house or whatever, but you'll have like your blueprints and all of that. So that was a huge issue with the first one, and to a lesser extent the second one. And I think on Nightmare mode, you can only save in bathrooms on this one. But every other difficulty, you can save whenever you want. So there's no real chance of you losing your whatever. But
I heard one complaint that people were saying, and this only applies to the diehard, but you could not go through Nightmare mode until you had completed the game. And so you could not go through Nightmare mode like level 1.
I don't know what Nightmare mode is. I don't know if it's just a difficulty level.
But it's like you would have leveled up and unlocked all these things to go through Nightmare mode, and I've heard by then it's not that difficult because you're way more powerful.
That makes sense.
So there's no way to do Nightmare mode at level 1 to really make it difficult. And I think that, as far as I know, that might be something that's different.
Yeah, I could see that being a complaint because already I'm like level 25, 28, somewhere in there. I feel really damn powerful.
Right.
With the skills that I've picked, I feel super strong because I can just wade in with certain weapons. You're like, you figure out which weapon combinations are super badass, and then I use traits like the one I mentioned before, where you can use any type of combination and make that weapon, and it's like a zombie slaughter fest. Like the one I was talking about before, it has a heavy attack where you like spin in circles with it, and like that's like a zombie room clear. Like it absolutely devastates
and
everything.
These attacks are like pretty satisfying, right? Like when I played the demo, it just felt very visceral, very savage, and it was fun.
Yeah, I like I said, my friend was over and we've played both Dead Risings, and we played through the first one co-op, quote unquote, because we just basically handed the controller back and forth. So like when one of us would get kind of frustrated or annoyed or be like just tired, we'd hand the other one the controller. So we've played through them, and he enjoyed it. So and the boss fights is another thing that's improved, I guess. I've only had 2. One of them was pretty crappy, kind of typical, not good.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't.
All right, didn't you have to like yell things at the Connect or something?
You don't have to, but you can.
So
you can taunt them, and it doesn't. A lot of the stuff it doesn't explain. It does have like a really a pretty thorough in-game like help page that goes through all of this, but it doesn't really stop and say, okay, taunting does this or whatever. So sometimes I've been like, I don't know what to do, and then I check the help, and I'm like, oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah, one of the guys on Giant Bomb was talking about how he was playing it, and he had to go through this boss several times, and it started out you have to say like, you're crazy to the Connect. So by the time he was on his 4th or 5th boss fight, he was just like, you're crazy. The
thing is, like,
saying it monotone, it's kind of dumb.
I don't know what that actually does, and it's not necessary. You don't have to do it. Because when I did it, I
got the idea that it did something though.
It's supposed to like lower their defenses, and like sometimes it will make them like more vulnerable for a limited time or something like that. I don't know. Like I've watched people and I've tried it a little bit. I didn't do it as much because I had friends over when I was doing that boss, so I didn't want to just yell "you're crazy" the whole time. But I didn't notice a huge difference. Maybe there's one there, but I don't know what it is. So, but just kind of wrap up on Dead Rising. Overall, it's really good. A lot of the things that people have hated in other Dead Risings is gone. They've really listened to people as far as what they don't like. One big concern when the Dead Rising videos were first being shown off was, it looks too realistic. They're going for the Call of Duty crowd. It looks more gritty. It looks better, but it's still Dead Rising. Yeah. Absolutely Dead Rising. It's still goofy. There are little things that I've grown to love with the series. Like if you get a bag of chips, when you eat the chips, you like put the chips up to your face and just go, and then the chips disappear. Just stuff like that. That I've just very amusing and charming. It's still there.
And still all the various props that you can put on and dress up.
Yeah, all kinds.
Wouldn't be Dead Rising without dress up.
Yeah, I've gotten all that. And what's cool too is now they have there's safe houses that you can find, and if you go to the safe house, there's like a wardrobe, and you can go to the wardrobe and you can get access all the clothes you've ever found.
All right,
so
you can keep all your Lego heads in there,
right? So you're not like, I want to switch back to that suit. I have to go run all the way back to that store. You just go to the safe house. One pretty broken thing though is in the safe houses, you can have a weapon storeroom, and it houses every weapon you've ever found, including combinations.
Oh wow!
But I think they try to balance that by you can't just like grab all of them. It has like a reload time. It's like, please wait while the warehouse or while the storeroom is refreshing. But it's still super powerful.
Yeah, you can tell they were trying to balance it somehow, and that's what they came up with.
Yeah, I still think it's once you find the really good weapon combinations, it's still kind of broken. But overall, I really like it. It's probably it's one of my favorite games that I've played this year.
Would you say it's the best Xbox One game of all time?
Yes.
Wow.
I would say that.
Man.
I would say that.
It's huge.
The last
Even
game,
now that Peggle 2 is out?
I didn't think about Peggle 2. I'll have to get back to you on that one. The last game I played was Wasteland 2. The early access beta started for the Kickstarter beta.
Yeah, I saw you were streaming.
Yeah, I streamed it for a while. What was cool was one of the developers actually came in for a while. The combat
awesome.
designer came in. And because I was, mentioning things as I ran into him. And he was like, oh, this and this and this. And I saw his name was like In Exile Ranger. I'm like, okay, I want to guess you work there. He's like, yeah, I'm the combat designer. I was like, awesome. I was like, it's really cool.
How many people are on that team?
Probably not many. I think I asked at one point how big the team was, but I don't remember if he answered or not. I'm a terrible streamer because I'm bad about not reading chat all the time, which is kind of important when you're streaming.
I don't think anybody's hit on, like... It's hard to have a good setup without multi-monitor.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's required. Or multiple computer at least. I know a lot of people have like a laptop.
Yeah, because it's just an IRC channel, so you can log into it using any IRC client.
Yeah. So overall, I'm liking it. I really like the feel of even they've said they think the background. What's the word I'm looking for? The ambient sounds aren't where they want them to be. Mm-hmm. But I thought they were really good so far. And somebody else in the chat mentioned it as well, that they really like the ambience and all that. So there is not that much voice acted. A lot of it you will have to be reading. So I know that might put some people off.
This sounds like more of an alpha than a beta. This is just a work in progress.
Well, I don't think there's going to be. There's no plans for all of it to be voice acted.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like Fallout 1 and 2, where important characters and important parts of dialogue are voiced. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just text.
Okay. So are they feature complete at this point? There's just polish to add?
My understanding is the vast majority of features are in.
Okay.
I believe they said either all of them or almost all the major features are in. I think they said feature complete, but it's been fun. I did run into several bugs, but it's to be expected. Early access beta, and of course, because the developer was watching, I made sure to run into as many as possible. So he was like, God, jeez, I know
that's so beta. Cool that you had a dev on there.
Yeah, I think it's because I tweeted something like, I'll be playing In Exile's Wasteland 2, and I put them on it. So I think maybe he just might have been looking around because I was reading all of the out loud. I was reading all the description text because it's old school, and that you click on various objects and it'll give you a little bit of flavor text about it. And I was actually reading that stuff, and he's like, "Thank you, by the way, for reading all the various texts." Yeah. He's like, "I've watched several streams and nobody else did that." I was like, "Yeah, that's like a lot of gamers these days." Back in my day,
these kids,
I know,
don't know the value of a good flavor text.
Yeah, it's good to sit back with an old school. It definitely felt old school RPG, but not in bad ways. Because a lot of times something feels old school because it was lazily designed or just designed inefficiently.
Yeah,
I don't feel that way for the most part with this game. I feel like there's been a lot of love and care taken, again, with there's so much things that you can click on. They don't do anything gameplay wise.
Yeah,
but it's just
it's there to create an environment you explore,
right? That you dig into and enjoy. So it's been a lot of fun so far. And like I said, if they can polish out these bugs, which I'm sure they'll get the majority of them, I really enjoyed it. And there's some balance issues too, I know it's post-apocalypse and all that, and ammo is scarce, which I think it should be. But because you have a party of 4 people, or at least 4 people, and by the end of the time I've played, about 4 or 5 hours, everybody was meleeing.
Yeah,
because maybe 1 or 2 people had ammo. So, and again, they've specifically said they're working on that. But overall, I've been very pleased with it. And that's all I've really played this week.
On a related note, you heard about the Fallout 4 news.
Yes, I did.
Confirmed it'll be in Boston.
Confirmed? Or
it's a confirmed leak. Yes.
Wait, did they confirm the leak?
according to Kotaku, the source that can be trusted, they got a leak, but
I will still file that under probably, but very possibly.
So you
not
should.
correct. Yeah.
But it does sound like there's a lot of signs that point to it being set in Boston, and that's not like something unbelievable. Because they've had people... Bethesda has sent up people to scout out Boston several times, and it sounds like they're doing something related to Boston. And it would be cool to see kind of a snow-covered, like, Fallout, like, Wasteland. So then it's like you could just redo all the snow tech from Skyrim, so...
Yeah,
it's easy.
I definitely looking forward to it. I'm a huge fan of the Fallout series, all of them. So
did you see GOG.com had Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics for free?
Yeah, I saw that.
That's pretty cool.
Tactics is actually the only one I haven't played ever.
Yeah, so if you're listening to the podcast, you're too late. It's already over.
Yeah,
sorry, shouldn't have even brought it up.
Yeah, good job.
All right, so I guess this is going to be the next entry in my weekly series, Microtransaction Report. The first game I want to talk about is Gran Turismo 6. So, luckily, I was able to rent a copy of Gran Turismo 6, and I've been playing it quite a bit on Johnny's PS3. And I have a lot of opinions about it, and it's hard to get an accurate basis of comparison against Forza because there's so many variables in the equation. Like, I can't definitively say that progression is faster because in some ways it's faster, in some ways it's not. You start out about the same, and you are awarded free cars along the way. But then the progression seems to get faster quicker. So as you get into higher races, you get a bigger payout than you would on Forza. But then, at the same time, there are cars that cost more on the upper end of the spectrum. So, lower-end cars seem to be cheaper, but higher-end cars, there's a bigger spectrum because there's way more cars in Gran Turismo 6. There's gosh, I should have got a hard number, but there's definitely a ton.
A ton, I think, is the official word.
Yes, they've reached 1.0 ton.
Actually, I guess a ton of cars would actually not be a lot.
It wouldn't even be a single car. So.
Yeah. So are you factoring in when you're saying that the cars are way more expensive, or some of them can be way more expensive?
The upper end of the Gran Turismo 6 cars are more expensive compared to the...
after the price cut?
Well...
Because did you see they announced like a big price cut on Forza cars?
Yeah, so that actually is... They did a lot of really good stuff on that economy update because they did a couple things. They increased payout when you level up, so you get more money that way. And in addition, they lowered the price on some of the cars, I think across the board, actually. So, in my opinion, Turn 10 has fixed the economy problems with Forza 5. That's not to say those are the only problems with Forza 5. I mean, there's still a big lack of tracks. I mean, there's 11 tracks in Forza 5, and there's like 37 tracks in Gran Turismo 6. So I've played Forza 5 for 10 to 12 hours, and I'm already at the point where I'm sick of Forza 5. Like, it's like, okay, I've played these tracks over and over and over again. And you can put up as many bowling pins or cones into this track as you want, but at the end of the day, it's the same place where I'm racing. And this is the first Gran Turismo 6 I've played since 3.
It's the first Gran Turismo you played?
First Gran Turismo.
You said this is the first Gran Turismo 6 I've played.
Sorry.
Yes. Well, both are correct. Both are correct.
This is the first Gran Turismo I have played since Gran Turismo 3. I used to be a huge fan of the series for the first and second one on my PlayStation 1. And then just, I guess, wasn't interested in simulation racers for a while. And then I really got into... Well, I was into PGR for a while. And that is much less simulation-oriented, but at least you have real cars. And then Forza 5 I got into, so I've kind of tailed back into the simulation end of it that way. And then playing Gran Turismo 6 was a lot of fun because it was a lot of kind of throwback to... There's still some elements from the original Gran Turismo that are in there, including like the sound that's made when the race starts. There's a lot of nostalgia in there. But in many ways, and I plan on having a full review of Gran Turismo 6 up later this week on my blog.
Where's that blog at?
That blog's at Capanius, CAPANE.us. I need to come up with a better way to verbally say that domain name.
Make it a jingle.
Yeah. But I'll have a full review on Gran Turismo 6, but what's interesting in just, that's just going to be a review talking about Gran Turismo 6. On the podcast, at least I can do a kind of a more contrast with Forza 5. In many ways, the design decisions in Forza 5 and Gran Turismo are similar to the design decisions that are different between a Western RPG and a Japanese RPG. Like in Gran Turismo 6, you're encouraged to get in there and min-max your cars out and to do upgrades and to install different things and to find the best PP, which is their performance index, to tweak your equipment on your car to get the best return on investment for it. Whereas in Forza 5, a lot of the car upgrade paths have been streamlined, where it's like, you want to upgrade your car? Yes, I want to upgrade my car.
Oh, wow.
Like, I want to make it so that it's the best for this series. So and I'm not one to say that one is objectively better than the other, because sometimes I like to get in there and play around with different combinations of, exhaust manifolds to get this car up to the right PP so that I will basically be the maximum amount of PP allowed for a given race series. But sometimes I just want to race. Like I'm enjoying Gran Turismo 6 more because of the track variety more than anything else. I think that's the biggest quantitative advantage of Gran Turismo 6.
From what I hear, just kind of, again, I don't play racing games, I'm not into them, but I do find the comparison and the discussion pretty interesting overall. Which is funny because Travis was over here playing at my house, and I never took the controller. I was like, yeah, this is a fascinating game to watch and discuss, but I have zero interest whatsoever in playing it myself. But so as an outsider, I guess, and for people who are watching, my question or observation would be: it seems that if you are like total audio, what do you call carophiles? Automobile. You don't want to call them audiophiles, or no?
Autophiles.
If you're a car nut,
I think you would call that person a car nut.
Yes. If you were totally like into cars, and it seems like Gran Turismo is what you want. If you're like, I like racing, I like, fast cars, but I wouldn't necessarily call myself a total auto enthusiast. There we go. Auto enthusiast.
Yeah.
Maybe Forza might be more.
I don't know though, because in the past, Gran Turismo has been much more clinical in its take on car management, and when it presents automobiles to you in such a way, it's very like, here are the technical specifications of this car. Whereas Forza has partnered with Top Gear, and they have the personalities from Top Gear going through how this car makes you feel as a human being, and it's much more like, this is more fun, So I think the most valid complaints against Gran Turismo are that they make racing a little too clinical or sterile. Now, I think they've made a lot of improvements in 6 to fix that. And in many ways, comparing Gran Turismo 6 and Forza 5 is kind of apples and oranges, because Gran Turismo 6 is the latest iteration in tweaking the series on an existing console, whereas Forza 5 is, we have to start from scratch in some ways, and this is the first entry on a brand new console. So it's a little unfair to compare them, because Forza 5, for as much as the conspiracy theorist in me wants to say that they intentionally cut things to make you buy cars, or cut tracks to make the experience more grindy, I think the truth is they didn't have time to put the tracks that they wanted to put into Forza 5. And so Gran Turismo 6 has the advantage of being, this is the final evolution, this is the last Gran Turismo on the PS3, and we have tweaked it, and we've got all these assets ported over properly to run on this engine. But what they've done with Gran Turismo 6 to make it feel more human or more in touch with the joy of racing is they've added all these random events, and they've added all of these scenarios and missions to make you feel like there's always more to discover, and it's much more about discovery than boring progression. Do these races, do these races, do these races. I mean, I've unlocked the moon missions, and so you get to like drive a lunar rover on the fucking moon.
That's awesome.
That is that's a first right there, and I think that should be at least one on a 10-point scale. That counts for 1 point on that game. All right, went to the moon. All right, if whatever I give it, if those moon missions did not exist, you can expect that it would have been 1 point less. But on Forza 5, they've had to cut tracks and cut cars, and they've even cut modes so that it is just the racing experience of get in this series, do this race, get in this series, do this race. And so, and in many ways, the qualitative assessment of those games is that they've switched, and that Gran Turismo 6 feels has more experience and discovery in it, and Forza 5 has more of a slog. Just kind of doing the same thing over and over again.
The author of the Destructoid article said, like in his final wrap up, basically said that he feels that if you like racing, you get Forza. If you like driving, get Gran Turismo 6. Would you agree with that?
I guess I don't really understand what he means by that.
I think what he means is if you are into like the competitive side, like the racing, like that's what's the most important to you, Forza is good. But if you just, I mean, obviously Gran Turismo has racing, but if you just enjoy the overall experience of driving a different cars, you just enjoy the driving, even if there was no other cars on the track, but that you enjoyed that, then Gran Turismo would be more for you.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that, because in many ways Forza, with this new Drivatar system, which, come on.
Yeah.
You couldn't come up with a better name than that.
That was awful.
At first, I thought this is interesting, and I enjoyed kind of how there was some humanity to the other race cars on the track. Unfortunately, though, there's too much humanity in the AI, and they really drive like cyber Vikings. I mean, they just like out to T-bone you at every turn, and it's like, this is insane. And it just, if anything, it's more annoying than anything.
Huh.
And everyone I've talked to has said, like, your Drivatar drives insane. Like, it's like, well, I think that way about your Drivatar, so get out of my face. Like, and it just like, everybody says that about everybody else's Drivatar, because they just, whatever formula they use to evaluate your racing profile, it just seems to highlight all the worst behavior you've ever exhibited on the track. And it gets old. Like, those 11 tracks with those Drivatars, I can't see myself ever getting to the point where I finish Forza 5. But I am enjoying Gran Turismo 6, and I can see myself finishing it.
So, do you feel, I mean, just not even looking at the numbers, not looking at charts, do you feel like the progression is smoother and overall has felt better in Gran Turismo?
I think one big difference is that in Gran Turismo, you're never presented with microtransactions or fake tokens to purchase. Whereas in Forza, you get prompts, kind of like ads. Hey, you can use your tokens to have experience boosts. You can buy tokens. What about that, huh? Whereas Gran Turismo 6, I don't even know where I would go to convert real money.
Maybe they went too far.
No, that's fine with me. Like, in fact, I don't think it should be in the game at all. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, it's a whole nother discussion, even though I tend to agree with you.
But if you have to have it in there, and you didn't change the way progression, you didn't change your rate of progression, and you hide it, then that's about as good as it can get with microtransactions. I will say, though, that Forza 4's progression was faster than Gran Turismo 6, and Gran Turismo 6 is a little faster than Forza 5.
After the changes or before?
Before the changes. So Forza 5 is probably faster than Gran Turismo 6 in progression now, I would guess. The only thing that's it's hard to make quantitative comparisons about these things because of all the virtual currency used and all the prices. Like, they could, even if you wanted to map Gran Turismo 6's virtual currency back to a real world currency, there would not be a definitive exchange rate, because some cars that are priced pretty low on virtual currency would be more expensive than another car that's lower on a virtual, like on real world currency. So it's impossible to actually create a formula that's an exchange rate, for these things, because they're really more priced more or less based on their coolness or their appeal, not necessarily how hard they are to get in the real world.
Right.
But I guess what was the question again?
If you felt that, I guess, progress was overall smoother.
Yeah, well, you do get gifted cars in Gran Turismo 6, and that's really cool. Like, you get all gold on a license test, or you finish a championship, you get gifted a car. It used to be in Forza 4, you got gifted a car at every level, so you were always getting cars. But in Gran Turismo 6, you get gifts, probably not as often. I feel like I've been playing Gran Turismo 6 and Forza. Well, I've been playing Forza for longer overall, but I have more cars in Gran Turismo 6 because I've been gifted them, and I've been trying out different cars and been buying them. And I've been doing more modifications and upgrades to my cars too. So I think I'm at the point where I'm getting much more money per race on Gran Turismo 6 than I was on Forza 5. But like I said, it's all hard to compare because there's so many variables in the equation.
And especially now that they've changed.
Yeah. I haven't played Forza 5 since... Oh, actually, those economy changes, I don't think those are live yet.
Oh, are they not?
I think they are coming. I think they've announced them, and that they're supposed to be coming next week. But I'll need to... We'll need to revisit that in our next episode of the Microtransaction Report.
The Microtransaction Car Game Report. Yes.
This is the car game podcast.
So, could you definitively say that you like one game more than the other, or is it one of those things where sometimes I want to play Forza, sometimes I want to play Gran Turismo?
I could say that I definitively like Gran Turismo 6 better than Forza 5, but I think that has more to do with the fact that I haven't played a Gran Turismo game in so long, and that I have played nothing but Forza games in a while. So I think the biggest advantage for me liking Gran Turismo 6 is variety. And so that's not really a good indicator of has a better quality than the other. Because Gran Turismo 6 has its faults too. I mean, the sound design is pretty lazy. A lot of the cars make the same like tire squeal sound effect no matter what car you're in.
In Gran Turismo?
Yeah, in Gran Turismo. And when you hit a barrier, it makes the same sound effect no matter what car you're in. Whereas in Forza 5, not only have they attuned sound design for each car individually, but they have feedback, like force feedback, that's catered to the car as well. So you get a feel of when your tires grip the road. And Gran Turismo 6, there is rumble, but it's like the most subtle, like useless rumble I've used in the game. And I'm not one to say I look for rumble in a game. Like, it matters to me. But Forza 5 is the first game that I feel has provided force feedback in a meaningful way for me to play better.
Yeah.
Like, it is the only game that's ever done that, and I think that's definitely of note. But I'm having more fun with Gran Turismo 6, but I think it's mostly because I've been away from that series for so long. So it's kind of fun to experience it. And I get to go to the moon.
That's huge.
That's a big part of it.
It was even, and then the moon thing just took it over the edge.
Yep.
If they could add, free DLC, moon DLC for Forza,
Exactly.
Now it's going to be on. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard to pick.
So I'm actually I'm renting Gran Turismo 6, so I have a limited time frame on that one, but I'm going to try to finish it up Monday or Tuesday and get a review out next week. So the full review. I know you guys are waiting.
Yeah.
Even though everyone else has their Gran Turismo 6 review out by now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they do. Mm-hmm. And it does have to be said that the graphics in some areas are painfully bad.
Yes, that's what I was going to say also is the ground textures in certain areas. Oof. Like, some of the grass looks like a texture from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Sometimes the road textures look right, but when you see a car on them and the light hits it in a certain way, it looks like it's green screened onto the track. Like, it doesn't look like it has weight on the
yeah.
It's like that episode of Seinfeld where his girlfriend looks great in one light and then looks terrible in another light. Their Gran Turismo 6 will simultaneously look amazing and terrible, depending on the camera angle.
Wow.
It's weird. Like, I don't know why that is, but I'm hoping that the PS4 version of Gran Turismo, I'm assuming they'll call it Gran Turismo 7, will be good.
Hopefully start giving it
Gran Turismo 7
names.
Prologue.
Oh, God. The rebooting the franchise. Yes. Taking the story back.
Let's call it Gran Turismo.
Oh, God. So what else did you play?
I also played a game on the PS4 called Doki Doki Universe. And this is came from nowhere. I didn't know that this game was being worked on or what it was. But apparently it is from Human Nature Studios, which is the new startup from headed by Greg Johnson, who is one of the guys who did Toe Jam and Earl. So he has this pretty small startup in California, and they originally started a couple years ago, and they did kind of some proof of concepts with the artist they used was Ai Wei, or Huang Ai Wei, and he seems like a very versatile artist. He's the guy who did some of the sculptures for Skylanders, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so he did all this 2D art, and it's a very... If you've seen any images from Doki Doki Universe, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's a very quirky, cute art style, and he did all this art for them, and they basically made a few proofs of concepts with this art. One was Deco Deco Mail, which was just kind of like a mail client where you could put all these GIFs in there, which is these really, really beautiful animations that he made. And then there was Deco Deco Quiz, which was this personality profile test thing where you answer questions based on these really cute animations, and it infers things about your personality from what you chose. And then there was this actual story about this robot that they put together. And so they pitched these things to Sony and piecemeal, and Sony's like, figure out a way to put it in one thing and just make it. Like, we like it. And so they went off, and then they worked on it, and they made Doki Doki Universe. And the idea of this game is it's very unique, and I can see how a lot of gamers wouldn't be that interested in it, because gameplay-wise, it doesn't offer a very deep experience, but in terms of what you see and what you experience, it's pretty neat because it's refreshing and it's new. Like, I like different things. But basically, this game, you play a robot who has been stranded on a planet, and this Alien Jeff is the name of this character. Alien Jeff comes by, and he says, "Hey, you are an old model robot. I've been given orders to scrap you, and the only way that you can save yourself and all other robots the same model as you is if you learn to be human, understand your humanity. You've been stranded on this planet for so long, and you've been living in isolation. You have to understand what it is to be human." And so you have to go from planet to planet, talking to people, and you have this basically summon system where you can summon objects to them, and you learn whether or not they like it, and you talk to them, and you can, you get presents from them, and you unlock more summonables, which are the items you actually present to people.
Yeah.
And the idea is empathy and understanding are are key elements towards humanity, so that you go and if you want to learn how to the human experience, you have to go and listen to people and understand what they want and do these things. And so basically there are these NPC interactions which you learn about these NPCs, and you just have to go out in the world and learn about these NPCs. And you go from planet to planet on your spaceship, which you can it's really pretty art. Like you can choose what your avatar is and what your spaceship is, and it looks like a really pretty interactive cartoon.
Huh.
And along the way, you also have these asteroids, which are personality tests. And so this is where that Deco quiz came from, where it asks you questions and you respond, and then it provides a quick assessment of why you chose these things. And it compiles all the tests you've ever taken into your own kind of psychological profile.
Yeah.
But what's cool about them is I find them to be very accurate. I'll choose something and it'll tell me the reason why I chose it. And I've found for the most part it's spot on. Yeah, that is why I chose that thing. And it'll tell you things about yourself in this aggregated personality profile that you can go visit at any time. And I've been playing it and my wife's been playing it, and it's really cool because our personality profiles are very different.
Yeah.
As we are very different, as we have very different personalities. Mm-hmm. So it's been fun. And then it's funny because I heard about this. I emailed Human Nature Studios and I was like, hey, I got a blog. I was just asking for a review copy, which there's nothing to lose. Yeah. I've never gotten one, but I'm trying to get my name out there so I can get review copies of things. And I got a reply and I was like, hey, I'm not the person to take care of this, but I forwarded you on to Sony PR Studios. And I looked at who sent the email. It was Greg Johnson. So
nice.
And so I was like, oh, thanks, man. And so I was able to get a copy actually from the live stream on PlayStation. Every day that there's new releases, PlayStation Live, official PlayStation community live streams. And if you're in the Twitch chat, they give out codes like there's no tomorrow. So
oh, wow. That's cool.
You should definitely check that out. They were giving away several codes. And so I was able to get a free code and was able to play it. And I emailed him and told him, and I basically told him, I was like, I've been enjoying the game. I think it's cool what you did. And he was like, thanks. He replied to me, and I had a conversation with him about, similar games and similar approaches. And what I asked him some of the questions about how this came to be, because I found kind of a history of the Deco Mail and the Deco Quiz stuff that they put out. And I was like, that is clearly something that was pushed into Doki Doki Universe. So what's the story behind that?
Yeah.
And he was really nice to reply to me. It's like, this is the lead designer on this game. He's not a press person. So I thought that was cool. And I'm going to try to have a review of that up next week as well. And
so I guess I'm trying to understand how that actually works. So, you go to a planet and you run into, I guess, a robot. And you talk to it and find out what it likes, what it doesn't like, right? Mm-hmm. So then you just have to it kind of adventure game where you have to go find an object kind of related to what he was talking about that he'll like and bring it back to him.
Yeah, in fact, as you talk to people, they give you presents, and those presents are objects that you can bring into the world that are basically they're called summonables, but they're kind of like cardboard cutouts. They're just flat, two-dimensional things. And if they say, they could be looking for a specific thing, or they could say hey, I really like this other person. Can you talk to them for me? So there are different things you can do for them that are just kind of like tasks. And as you do things for them, they have a profile associated with them on their likes and dislikes. And there are they can like cute things, or they can like machines, or they can all these different kind of meta tags associated with all these different pieces of art that you bring into the world. And sometimes you get a present for them by showing them things they like, and sometimes you get a present from them by showing them things that they hate. If you annoy them too much, then they just give you their gift. That's where it's more gamey than I don't think there's an underlying message that your goal should be to sometimes annoy people as much as possible. It's just being gamey at that point. But yeah, you just there's a button to summon in things for it, and I might live stream some of this stuff because it's really hard to explain in words, but when you see it, somebody playing it, it's like, oh, that's cool. Like,
yeah,
it was actually pretty intuitive, and my wife jumped in and she's playing on her game too. She's actually played a lot more than I have, so she's I don't know if she's maybe a third or half the way done with the game, but it's really not overly complicated. I think the only complaint I have in that game is that what it lacks in depth of gameplay, it attempts to make up for by just making you do it a bunch.
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of content out there. There's a ton of NPCs. There's tons of interactions. But at the end of the day, you're repeating the same task over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, just from your description, because I have only heard about this game within the last few days even. It sounds to me basically like you're finding these robots and they say, oh, I like...
Well, you're a robot, but these other...
Well, right,
yeah.
but they're robots too, right?
No, they can be people.
Oh,
they're usually people, but sometimes they're animals. Sometimes they're scarecrows.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you were trying to say the other robots too.
Well, you're trying to basically... You're a representative of your model.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically you go to this person and they're like, oh, I like peanuts and Chinese food. So you like find peanuts and Chinise food and bring it to them.
The writing is much better than that.
Okay.
So, the writing is actually pretty good. That's one detail I forgot that I left out. That a lot of the written dialogue for these characters is really goofy and funny.
Yeah.
And it feels like a cartoon. Like they'll say they won't just flatly say what they hate or don't or what they like.
Right.
They will say quirky things that define that character, and each character is unique and interesting.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of, I mean, it's in some ways it's very cutesy, but in some ways it's also very puerile. I mean, there's lots of poop humor.
Yeah.
So if that's not your bag, then I mean, but it's very childish, but in a endearing way. I mean, the idea is that everybody is super childish in this world, and that kind of relates to the childlike approach to the world, and that how kids, like a kid can strike up a conversation with anybody. Kids are just like, hi, my name's so and so, I'm 4. Like they do that stuff all the time, and as we get older, we kind of lose that. We have our own like guards, and we're much more within our personal world of our established friends and everything. And so it's definitely interesting to see that approach of kind of childlike innocence of going out and talking to these people. So I can see how somebody who could find this cloyingly sweet. Like, it's very cute and it's very over the top, and there's lots of hearts, but there's lots of poop. Like, it's an interesting design aesthetic that they've done with that game. So I think it's pretty cool. I like it.
And I would probably throw in a trailer here if you're watching YouTube, but given some of the YouTube issues which we will discuss later, I probably will not. But we'll talk about that later.
More on that soon.
Yeah. So what else did you play?
I played a little bit of Samurai Gunn. This is it's funny, this is one of those indie games that apparently was anticipated by a lot of people, but I hadn't heard of until Samurai Gunn is out. And I was like, oh, what's Samurai Gunn?
Yeah.
So I went to check it out, and it's a really cool concept. It is really for same room co-op. Like, this game is not fun single player, but if you get 4 people together, I can see how this game would be a ton of fun, especially if you're having some friends over and you're drinking, and this is a good drunken party game. So it is like a beat 'em up, but you all play samurais, and you have 3 bullets and a samurai sword. And what's cool about the game is, a lot of times in a beat 'em up, it's all about hitting the buttons as fast as you can and punch. This game is all about like the punctuation of not attacking. So you have a swipe with your samurai sword that only works in close range combat, but the recovery time on that attack it's not terrible, but you can tell if you hit A, you can't just hit A. Like you can't swipe. And you only have 3 bullets per life as well. And that is basically, it's all about hitting that attack at the right time and being mindful of when you're attacking. And I like that they, in the music and the presentation, they kind of combine the samurai films and spaghetti westerns together.
Yeah.
Because, back in the day, trying to think the years that these were probably, but spaghetti westerns and samurai films have very similar approaches to like the Noble Warrior, like in terms of the films that were portrayed. And so, Seven Samurai was remade as the Magnificent Seven, and so that there was a lot of people that like those genres like them both. Like like Kill Bill 1 and Kill Bill 2 were a kind of love letters to that dichotomy of like Kill Bill 1 was all about samurai film and Kill Bill 2 is all about spaghetti westerns. And so there's definitely a lot of genre representation on that. And it's coupled with very pixely art. I mean, the samurais look kind of like lemmings in terms of like they're able to squeeze really cool looking animations out of not many pixels. Yeah. So it looks kind of cool. And whenever somebody dies on screen, like there's this zoom in and it pauses the action and it's super bloody. Like so it just sprays pixely blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. And it's definitely, if you have friends coming over and you want to play a 4-player game, that would be pretty fun.
What is that on?
Right now it's on Steam, but I expect it would be on... I don't know. I can see it hitting consoles later on. I just don't know how big that shop is and if they have enough people to do ports for it right now.
How much is it?
I want to say $9.99, but it's 20% off right now.
Oh, okay. How much was Doki Doki Universe? I meant to ask
Doki Doki Universe is $15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to be honest, there is a free version of Doki Doki Universe where you can experience some of it. It's kind of like a demo, but it's just the game with a lot of content locked. I would probably wait on Doki Doki Universe.
Really?
Because I can see it going on sale for half price in the not too distant future. And unless you heard me talking about it and it just sounds like your thing, it's more of an interesting experience that is more experimental in its game design. Yeah. It's more like kind of playing around with the game design boundaries, not necessarily like this is a wholly fleshed out game that is a ton of fun to play. It's more of this is a cool experience that changes up some of the ways we look at games, So
Doki's only PlayStation 4, right?
It's actually PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and Vita. And it's cross-buy.
Okay.
So if you have like a PS3 and a Vita, that definitely changes the value proposition because then you have a game you can play at home and a game on your Vita. And I think the saves are cross-platform too.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So I really do like the cross-buy initiative by Sony. Like, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I definitely wish that was more the norm than it is.
Yeah. I want to get to the day where I buy a game on PC and I can play it on Xbox. It'll never happen, but I would like to see that day happen. But it won't happen.
If you played, if you bought a game on the 360 and it worked on your Xbox One.
Yeah.
I mean, they did have that $10 upgrade thing, but even then it was an either-or thing. Like, if you bought it on the Xbox 360, you had to trade in your copy and provide $10 to upgrade it. So it's not like you had both. It was an either-or thing.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah. So then it's just a discounted upgrade. It's not a cross-buy.
Yeah.
So I also played Sound Dodger Plus, which it's... God, I should have put some show notes on this one. I forget the guy's name. He goes by Bean. But
I'm spacing on his actual name now.
Yeah, as am I. But this is by Adult Swim Games, and I actually just played the Flash version of this. There is a Flash version, and then there's a version on Steam.
Yeah.
And the concept is pretty simple. It is a rhythm. It's kind of a mashup between rhythm games and bullet hell shooters.
Yeah.
So as you're listening to the song, it's generating these little cones that you have to move the mouse with your circle to avoid. And the beats from the song basically generate these cones. And a lot of the bullet patterns are ones you would experience in a Japanese bullet hell shooter. So it's I really like bullet hell shooters, so it's kind of cool to play that. And the music is really good too. Like, he basically just went out to a lot of indie game composers and was like, "Hey, you want to make a song for my game?" And they said, "Sure."
Why not?
Yeah,
I'm not doing anything.
It's cool to see kind of different indie game studios work together like that, because as far as I know, well, I don't know what the payout was for royalties or whatever, but they just decided, let's settle that later. They just did it, and they made a song for him. So the investment wasn't crazy. It was just one song. But there's music from Disaster Piece and some other ones that I recognize, but now I'm drawing a blank on.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about the Steam version is that if you buy it, you can basically play any MP3 you want. And so it's got a procedural engine for generating the bullets, so that you can listen to.
I can play my bullet hell shooter to my Enya collection.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. Or you can listen to stand-up comedy by your favorite.
Or you can listen to this podcast. You can play that game.
Yes.
You have to last the whole 2 to 3 hours.
Here's the first Super Game Talk Turbo HD Remix Challenge. I want to hear your best scores of this podcast on
Sound Dodger.
On Sound Dodger Plus. So, that's an investment, because if we're going, above the 2-hour mark today, that's a 2-hour playthrough of Sound Dodger Plus.
I forfeit this challenge immediately. Challenge not accepted.
Yes, I might have to give that a try. But that's a lot of fun. Like I said, I just played the Flash version, but I'm tempted to go out there and buy the Steam version.
The only difference is that you can use your own sound.
There's more songs in the Steam version too. Yeah.
Is Danny Baranowski? I think I said his name right. Danny Baranowski. Is that him from who did Super Meat Boy?
Oh, is he on? Did he do the soundtrack
or did he do any songs for it?
I'm not sure.
Because he's one of the very few people that I recognize instantly. Maybe. Okay.
I don't remember. Because there's a lot of tracks that exist on the Steam version that I didn't play through.
It seems like he seems an obvious choice.
Yeah.
Because he seems... Excuse me. He's very well known, and he seems to be like, I'll do music for a game. Whatever.
Probably then.
Yeah. He's probably on there. Maybe.
And the last game I played this week was Peggle 2.
You're saving the best for last.
No. As you can guess from the title, Peggle 2 is a Peggle game. And that is literally the best way to describe Peggle 2. It is more Peggle. That's not necessarily a terrible thing or a bad thing, but there's really nothing remarkable about Peggle 2. It's more Peggle.
How much is it?
It's $12, which isn't...
Okay.
It's not terrible. And here's the best feature of all. No microtransactions.
Wow.
Yeah. What's funny is I saw a lot of people listing that as a positive. And I think that is really sad.
That is sad.
It's like, hey, no microtransaction in Peggle 2, you should get it. Like, oh, man. That's just...
Is that where we are?
Yep, is officially where we are. People noting how exceptional it was that Peggle 2 that a game did not have microtransactions.
I think that's more of a comment about the company.
Yeah, I think it's a comment about the launch stable of Xbox One games.
Yeah, both, because EA does Peggle, right?
Yeah.
Because it's PopCap, which is EA.
Yeah.
But I think it's a combination of Xbox and EA, and it somehow didn't have microtransactions.
Yeah.
Is mine?
Yeah, because if you look at what they did with Plants vs. Zombie 2, like
I haven't actually looked into that much.
Super microtransaction-y.
Ugh.
And I've patented that word. What makes like that game is really good in terms of the design and how much time they put into the different levels and the different challenges you have to do. But what sucks about it is that it is so clearly designed to get your money through microtransactions. Like you play through the level, and then you play through all the levels in the first world, and then you get to the gate, and it says you need 14 twinkle stars or whatever they're called to progress, and the only way to get those things is to go back and play levels you've already played.
Ugh.
And so it's immediately it very clearly presents to you like, do you want to go back and play the same game over again, or do you just want to give us $4? Like it's and it's in its defense, when you go back and play those levels, there's different objectives to be completed, so it's not the exact same experience over and over again.
Yeah.
But it is definitely one of those things where the accountants told the game designers what to do.
Yeah. That's very unfortunate, because I love Plants vs. Zombies.
Yeah. So with Peggle 2, there are some small positive and negative changes, but for the most part, it's Peggle. There are new Peggle masters. There are 5, so 6 total with Bjorn the Unicorn. Yours and my favorite. So there are 6 total, and in the past, that's actually less than Peggle 1. So there have been less total. I think there's less total levels and there's less Peggle masters to play through.
Yeah.
Each Peggle, this is really going to bore people who don't know anything about Peggle, but each Peggle Extreme Fever at the end of the level has a different theme. It used to just be Ode to Joy for everybody.
Yeah.
And now each Peggle master has their own song associated with them. I've played through... It's almost half of the game. I've played through... Well, no, a third of the game. I've played through 2 Peggle Masters and one of the Peggle Masters trials, which are kind of like the extra content. And one of the Peggle Masters is like a Yeti designed after one of the characters from... I forget the guy's name. From The Big Lebowski. The bowler. The John Goodman character.
Oh.
Or no, maybe he's supposed to be the dude. I don't know. Yeah, I think he's supposed to be the dude.
The dude is a little bit more Yeti-like.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I guess they're Yeti-like in their own way.
Anyway.
Everyone has their own little Yeti.
It is... Like, every turn, it's like, hey, get it? Big Lebowski, huh? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I get it. I get your joke.
I saw the movie.
Like, it's all right. And it gets annoying after a while. The animation is really good, though.
At any point, does it say "Shut the fuck up, Donnie"? Does it say that?
No, it should. That should be a voice command that unlocks something. Xbox, shut the fuck up, Donnie. But the animation's really good. Like, they got some really good artists to draw this stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, I mean, it's more
Peggle.
Peggle. It's Peggle.
Yeah, I played Peggle, but it's like just so random. Like, I just couldn't enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
Like, I probably spent more time than I should have playing it.
Well, I really got into it, the first Peggle, and I played through it and I enjoyed it. And then I thought, like, oh, I'm ready for more Peggle, but it just doesn't have that hook in me like the original Peggle did. The original Peggle, I was like, this is fun, this is goofy, like the Ode to Joy thing at the end is fun. And now I'm just like, yeah, this is Peggle. Like,
yeah, I think that's just kind of one of the things where it's like the first time you play it, it's like, yeah, cool, and then more of it's like,
they did not add anything to make it interesting again.
It would be like if they made like a Robot Unicorn 2. Wait, did they make that?
I think they did.
I thought, yeah, because wasn't it a similar game? Because they ended up using the music from the Neverending Story, the theme song.
It sounds likely. I'm not sure.
I can't remember if it was an actual sequel, but I remember them using that song. But like, you have to actually pay them because they're like, look, we can give it to you free, Because I think they had it free, but if you wanted that song, you had to pay because they had to, license it, of course. But it was like $2 or something.
Yeah.
So it was like, whatever.
Yeah.
But which they're great at picking songs. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know who picked "Always" by Erasure for the first one, but that was brilliant because nobody would have known about that game.
No,
the music made that game.
It's the music and the aesthetic and just like the dumb
robot unicorn with his yeah.
But
if they would have just chose a generic song to go in the background, like nobody would have really would have paid any attention. I don't think.
But it's interesting with Peggle 2's $12, and there's 6 Peggle Masters, so more Peggle Masters are coming along as DLC. So I don't know. At the end of the day, if you had to buy all that content the first day it was available, how much you would spend? I think you could be approaching $30. It just depends on how much they charge for each, how many Peggle Master packs. Because they're going to do a classic Peggle Masters pack that has old Peggle Masters, and that you have different ones, and I can see them making packs for this even up to a year after the fact. Like they're not going to just let Peggle 2 be Peggle 2.
Are they really? I guess there is, but people who are like, yes, I want more Peggle Masters.
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
I mean people are still buying Angry Birds for whatever reason. Like,
do you see Angry Birds was $50 on the PlayStation 4?
Yeah, I heard about that. That's insane.
It's like $1.99, $2.99 on iOS.
Who is still buying Angry Birds? That game got old after like 2 hours.
You know what though? If you go into how many people like it or how many people the trophies for it, you can see how many people there are people that are bought Star Wars Angry Birds for the PlayStation 4.
That's sad.
That is insane.
You're a sad person if you bought that. I'm going to flat out tell you right now.
Because they're just like saying like, well, why don't we put it out for $50? Some idiot's going to buy it.
And apparently a lot of idiots are buying it. But I just don't Angry. Why has it not died? It should have died the same death as say Tiny Towers and Tiny Planes and all of those.
I think
games
a lot
that
of this
are fun
stuff
for a week
gets self-sustaining in a weird way. You look at Duck Dynasty. You go to Walmart and you can get Duck Dynasty printed on anything. You want a Duck Dynasty pint glass. You want a Duck Dynasty toothbrush. You want a Duck Dynasty quilt. Walmart has it. You can't avoid Duck Dynasty branded shit.
I see that crap. I don't even know what the hell Duck Dynasty is, and I don't really care.
It is. I gave it a shot. I watched it. It's a reality show. I didn't find it that interesting.
What was it about? What's the
It's
catch?
About. So there's
bearded guys.
Yes, there's this family who has basically made a fortune off of these handmade duck calls. That they are this. If you're a duck hunter, and you want to get this duck call, then you just this is the gold standard of duck calls, and they make them by hand. And it's just kind of been passed down by their family or whatever. And they gain notoriety from that, and they're all pretty interesting characters. They're real people. I'm not saying they're actors, but at the end of the day, though, they're making way more money on the on their show than they ever did on duck calls. So, and just like Angry Birds, you could get Angry Birds anything at a time.
Yeah.
I think that has actually gone down a little bit, but for a while you could get Angry Birds branded whatever you wanted to. Right now there is a factory in China putting the words Duck Dynasty on the most mundane shit. And
Duck Dynasty,
they're probably
salt and pepper
why are we doing this? I don't understand, but these Americans are buying it. And Walmart, you can't avoid that stuff.
Just stop.
It's crazy.
People. Stop it.
Crazy.
Stop it.
Stop buying it.
Stop.
You can like Duck Dynasty, but don't buy Duck Dynasty things just because it has the word Duck Dynasty.
I guess to be fair, I haven't watched it, and maybe if I thought they were the most interesting people ever, no, I wouldn't buy a Duck Dynasty comforter. No. I
think, this is going to sound really cynical and derisive, but I think it's the latest thing to appeal to the same people that really like the blue collar comedy tour, just kind of like that.
Like my mom.
That goofy down home.
Sorry, Mom.
We live in the Southeast, so we know a lot of people that
yes, half my family tree, yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people in the South that love that because they also stand for, Christian values too. So they'll they'll state things about spirituality and Christianity on the show, and I think that really resonates with people.
Yeah, well, I let me put it this way: I had a cousin who was on a CMT reality show. It was the one where they had like a bad kid, and they sent him off to another family to live with. Luckily, he wasn't the one with the bad kid. Mm-hmm. He was the one who had like a farm, and the kids got sent to him. So yeah, half my family is very Southern, let's say. So yes, I know all about that. So is that everything you played this week?
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, as far as news, I kind of knew this was coming last week. I didn't know if it'd make a good topic for the podcast, but it's kind of blown up, and I'm actually glad that it's blown up as far as media coverage, who's talking about it, how much it's being talked about, is YouTube's new content ID system.
Copyright Apocalypse 2013.
Yes. And I did hear somebody use Copyright Gate already, so that's been taken. Even though it technically should be like Content ID Gate or something. Yeah. But anyway, the first thing I want to do is clear up some misconceptions about what the Content ID system is. I upload a lot to YouTube. I've got I'm going on 3,000 videos on YouTube now. And I've been doing Let's Plays and all that kind of stuff. So I'm familiar with the ID system. And honestly, a lot of this I didn't know until recently, because YouTube does such a piss poor job of explaining how these systems work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me. I saw other YouTubers who have tens of thousands of subscribers go, "Oh, I didn't know it worked this way." In a nutshell, the Content ID system is an automated process behind the scenes at Google that goes through videos and checks for video and audio that has been registered as being owned and copyrighted. So if you upload, Miley Cyrus's song "Wrecking Ball" or whatever the hell it was, then it will match that and go, "Hey, this is she owns that, or her company owns it, or whatever." And usually what will happen is that company, well, maybe not something as egregious as uploading the entire Wrecking Ball song, but like maybe if you had it in the background or something like that, then your video will get flagged as having that content, and you will get ads put on your video, and all of the ad revenue will go to whatever company claimed ownership. Most of the time, your video is not going to get taken off. You're not going to get strikes, anything like that. The only time I ever see or hear that is if you do something like you upload Lord of the Rings, something obviously broken. But if you have like game music, like if you play Grand Theft Auto and it's got the radio music in the background, you'll get, flagged for ads, stuff like that. So the important note again is that getting marked by the Content ID does not, again, almost ever just flat out give a strike on your channel or anything like that. Now, a strike is a big deal. If you get 3 strikes, your channel's gone forever.
And everything associated with it, right?
Yes, everything's gone. It's just deleted as far as I know. I don't think it's just spent. I think it's deleted. So the strikes are what you want to avoid at all costs. You only have 3. And you usually have to do something pretty major to get a strike, usually. Content ID matches, you could have 100, 200 Content ID matches. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really affect you because most of the time that company is just putting ads on your videos and they're making the revenue from it. So another part that's important to understand on the Content ID system is if I get a match and it's not valid for whatever reason, either because I'm using it fair use, or because it's an incorrect match, or it's a troll company that doesn't even own the rights to the material, I can dispute this claim. And now this is something I didn't understand until recently. I thought if I disputed and the company not only said you don't have it, we're going to take it to the next level, we want YouTube to give you a strike, that this could happen. I thought you could get a strike from disputing a Content ID claim. That is not true. It might have been true in the past, maybe, but as of right now, if you dispute a claim, you cannot get a strike. The worst that can happen, and I had this happen recently, is the company come back and say, "No, we own that. We're disputing your rejection." And it comes back and it tells you they reviewed it. They've reinstated their claim. And the other thing that can happen is the company releases the claim. Mm-hmm. So now you're free to monetize or not monetize as you see fit.
Is there a, like, if they don't reply in a certain amount of time, that it's automatically set? Like,
now, I thought if they didn't respond within 30 days, it was automatically lifted. Uh-huh. However, what somebody was saying is them, like some really sleazy companies, mostly the troll companies or the illegitimate ones, will wait the entire 30 days and then as soon as it drops, reinstate it. Because, YouTube.
So they can reinstate it as many times as they want?
I think if they don't. I mean, I've never had a case where I disputed something and they released it and then they redisputed it.
Right.
Or they reclaimed it. So I don't know if you can only do that if you let the time elapse, which seems stupid to me. If you've got 30 days to review it, that's plenty of time.
Yeah.
It should just auto be approved and they should not be able to dispute it again.
Now, what content ideas that you disputed were they rejected?
For Lego Batman, it had some of the Warner Brothers actual music on it. So the disputer or the claimant was WMG, Warner Music Group.
Uh-huh.
So, technically, I could probably argue fair use because the video wasn't about their music; it just happened to be in the background.
But at that point, you are risking a strike.
Correct,
okay.
And it's not worth it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to worry about 2 Lego Batman videos.
You should put up with the same title of Lego Batman Part 16 or whatever it is, and be like, "Hey guys, just so you know, because of legal reasons, you can't see this part."
Yeah. Well, they can see it. It's just ads.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
see,
so
that's
it's
the
watchable.
important
You
thing.
just don't monetize it.
Yeah. Again, I don't get a strike. Nothing negative happened to me because they rejected my dispute. But all it means is the video's still available, but the ad revenue for those videos, which is probably not even a penny a month, will go to Warner Music Group or whatever. So that's the 2 things that can happen when you dispute. Again, they reject it or they just release it and you're good to go. Mm-hmm. If they reject it, you can appeal. But if you appeal and they reject it, then you can get a strike. So you should really only appeal if you were 110% sure that...
And who is is there any arbiter at this point? During an appeal?
YouTube basically is in the positions
look,
we've got this system in place. We don't want to do anything. We don't want anything to do with anything. But if it comes down to it, they're going to side with the claimer, the ID claimer. So they'll side with the company most often than not. More often than not. But they
even
don't
if it's a troll company, it's not the company.
There's troll companies that have been around for a long time, that have known to be have no rights to the content. The whole system is a total clusterfuck. It's awful.
What a mess.
At YouTube, I've always said YouTube is the island of misfit developers for terrible Google employees. If you're a bad Google employee, I feel like you get sent to YouTube.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the developers; it's the designers of the systems.
I just mean, island of misfit employees. How about that? Because it's not developers.
People making these decisions,
but they also have tons of technical problems.
Yeah,
that a lot of normal who just view YouTube probably don't notice.
Yeah,
but if you're an uploader, you run to them all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the system in a nutshell. So it's important to note that just because you get an ID doesn't necessarily mean your video is going to get taken down. Though it does happen. I know Angry Joe had a big problem with this, and I think a few of his videos got flat out taken down. I think, but I think that is just an option the company can have if there's a match. But the vast majority do not do that. The vast majority do not just have your video taken down. It might be blocked in some countries. Some of my videos are randomly blocked in some countries. I don't know what's up with that. I haven't bothered to look into it. but it's very weird. So that's the thing, and that's the important part, because I did see people like, oh, you're going to see all these channels, all of a sudden disappear. You're going to see like the Nerd Cubes and the Angry Joes, like their channels just disappear overnight. That's not going to happen unless they just go through and dispute, and then the dispute is rejected, and then they appeal everything, and all of a sudden get 3 strikes. That's not going to happen. But what is important to note for channels like Nerd Cubed, like Chugga Conroy, like Angry Joe, all these channels, these guys make a living, or at least I think Chugga Conroy does. All these channels, or these people who run these channels, make a living off of the ad revenue from these videos. Mm-hmm. So if these companies are coming in and saying, oh, we get all the revenue, then that means they're going to stop doing it entirely, or they're going to do it a lot less. People don't understand how much time this stuff makes.
No.
Or it takes. Even look at Angry Joe. If you haven't watched his YouTube site, you should. He does video game reviews, and he goes like all out. He like gets costumes, and he does like all these comedy bits. He's somebody I really like, and somebody I actually respect quite a lot because of a lot of stuff that he's done. He's also the guy, if you don't know, he's the one who put he basically took Major Nelson to task about the whole always online thing. And when Major Nelson did that famous, they can't just flip a switch, and then they later on said they were going to turn it off. Which I understand that was taken not taken out of context, but they didn't just flip a switch. Anyway, but he was the only one at that time who interviewed him and really like who put his feet to the fire.
Yeah. And
I respect him a lot for that. Because Major Nelson was obviously feeling very uncomfortable by some of the questions, and people gave him shit for that. I'm like, no, this is what we want. Like, he's not supposed to just be a PR mouth.
Yeah,
he's supposed to be asking the tough questions. That's why I have a lot of respect for him. Anyway, so he does all this work. I've done like 7 and 10 minute reviews, like actual reviews where I take clips and I write out the script and all that. Like, even for a 10-minute review can take me hours to do. I can't even imagine. And his reviews are like 30 minutes long usually. And again, they're all like costumes and all this other stuff. Like, I can't imagine the hours and days it probably takes him to do one review. So people don't realize that. And even if you look at people who do Let's Plays like Nerd Cubed and things like that, there's a lot of time spent into this. This isn't just sit down, record yourself, throw it on YouTube, and hope for the best. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that eats up a lot of time. If you want quality content, it's a lot. I mean, I could just record myself with Fraps and some kind of free audio software, throw it in, don't bother with any of the mixing and stuff, and you get a nasty sounding videos. But people don't watch that. Well, not as much. Some people they do. But anyway, so these people's livelihood basically is being threatened by this because they won't be getting the ad revenue. Now, they can always contest it. They can dispute it, rather. But you have to think about a few things. First of all, let's say they start playing or they do a review for a game that's just come out, and it immediately gets flagged. The dispute could take anywhere from hours, or more realistically, it's going to take days, if not weeks, to get through. Are you going to be looking... I mean, how popular do you think a game review video is going to be 2 months or 2 weeks after the game is already out? Mm-hmm. Most of your views are going to come in the first 24 to 48 hours of the video coming out. So that's a big chunk of these people's revenues. So that's why it's so important that even though they might get it taken off, it just takes too long. Another problem, the content ID system matching is just awful. It's terrible. First off, there were people getting flags from THQ, a company that doesn't even exist anymore. It's like, how do you dispute a claim from a company that's not even there? So it's probably going to take the whole 30 days. If it's even legit, it might be a troll company.
Yeah,
that's just called themselves THQ.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So on the side of the content owners, I'm assuming they have some sort of interface into the content ID system where they view possible matches and they decide to pursue it, or it's all automated so that they basically just upload their original content and then the content ID system goes and matches it for them?
I think they can pick a default behavior.
Okay.
If you dispute, I think at that point somebody has to go through and decide yay or nay. But the actual material, I'm assuming they upload like a sample.
So best case scenario for some of these people is that their monetization is disabled for an entire 30 days while this company doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Like, it has to time out.
Yeah, if it's even THQ.
That's crazy.
And the reason this has come up is that on Monday, Google, because of some lawsuit that I think they lost with some music group, they're doing this thing where the content ID is going to like reassess a lot of videos. I'm not quite sure the details, but basically starting Monday, tons of people started to get new updates because of the changes they made to the content ID system. And it wasn't uncommon to get like old videos. Like my first videos that started to get content ID matches were Skyrim videos I did 2 years ago. And
but there was no licensed music in that, right?
See, here's another problem. And it's mostly music, by the way. It is mostly music right now. The problem is, it's something I'm seeing pretty commonly, is that these games will license or they will like contract music, or they'll buy music from someone, and then that music is found in the game, and then whoever originally owned the music will flag it. So like Skyrim has all that music in the background. I don't think Bethesda themselves made it. I think they contracted somebody apparently, and then they're getting claims from those companies. Another thing that I'm hearing is happening, and this happened to, I forget, this happened to Angry Joe. He made a video about this. He talked about how he bought like a package of music, like royalty free. Like basically, once you buy this, you can use it, monetize it. It doesn't matter. And several of his videos, of course, use that music. Well, several of his videos got flagged because it got found with that music. So he got a hold of the company and was like, what the hell is the deal? Like, why am I getting flagged? I bought this from you. And the thing is, they were like, you need to send us links to your videos that you got matches on, and we'll take care of it. And you had to send in like your order ID to prove you bought it. So he actually talked to one of the guys there and was like, why is this a thing? And turns out the reason they had to do this is because some fake company took their name and started claiming the music, and the only way they could battle it was to make their own version of it.
I see.
So it's like the ID match is such a total clusterfuck by YouTube. It's
so messed up.
And that's where this frustration is.
You know what they need to have? They need to have more stringent regulation on proving that you own something. So,
right.
Like, the troll companies come along and say, like, we own this thing. YouTube needs to take the time and effort to be like, prove it. Oh, you don't? Okay, well, we're not going to put the burden of proof on the content creators on our website. We're going to take the time and effort to protect our community of video creators, and they don't give a fuck. Like,
I mean, the problem is multifaceted
because YouTube doesn't care who gets the money, like,
because they get their cut.
They get their cut of the advertising, no matter what, and it's just a burden on them to determine who has more of a right to that monetization.
Right.
To them, it's like a dollar's a dollar.
If we get our same cut either way.
Yeah. So, God, that's messed up.
And the thing is, and like I said, like I could go on for this. This could be its own 3-hour podcast. But part of the problem is YouTube doesn't communicate.
Yeah.
They absolutely do not communicate. They're impossible to get a hold of. If you get an illegitimate strike on your account, it can be an absolute nightmare to get rid of. Unless you're big, unless you're like somebody like Total Biscuit with 1.5 million subscribers or whatever he's at now, they don't give a damn. There was a issue where he got a strike from and it just shows you just how ridiculously abusable this system is. I don't know if you heard about this thing where he reviewed Gary's incident. Mm-mm. The Game Gary incident he reviewed. They sent him a review copy, and he trashed it. Like, he totally just ripped it apart.
I did hear about that.
And they filed a copyright claim on him, got his video removed, and got a strike on his account. And everybody knew damn good and well it was because he trashed the game. But they were like, well, he monetized the video, and we didn't say that was okay, so that's why we did that. I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. Every other video that's up that has monetization, you're fine with. Kotaku, Destructoid, Polygon, all these other websites have reviewed your game and show video of your game, and they have ads on their site, so they're making money off of this. Like, why would you just pick him, and all these other people obviously are doing the same thing? So they actually did end up backing off on it, and he did get the strike removed. But, even ignoring that company, trying to get that strike removed, as anybody other than Total Biscuit would have been a cluster. Because, again, they don't respond. Now, they did actually release a very, very small statement about this because it's blown up so badly. And it was the generic, we're implementing this. Oh, but if you get a bad one, make sure you don't forget, you can always dispute the claim. It's like, yes, we know, but what about these unscrupulous companies out here that have no rights to this music? For another thing, CD Baby is somebody I've been dealing with, and which apparently is a site that's been around a while.
Yeah.
I never even heard of them, but shows how cool and hip that I am. But on several of my Hotline Miami videos, I kept getting hit with CD Baby because of the music in the background. Well, to their credit, all of the ones I've disputed they've released all of them. And I even mentioned in Twitter, I mentioned CD Baby, and they actually tweeted at me and were like, hey, hopefully this is all getting taken care of. If there's any videos that don't get unflagged, let us know. But, Devolver, kind of sent them a nasty tweet. I don't know if you seen that.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, I think Devolver said something. The guys who publish Hotline Miami, they tweeted something about this whole thing, and I think they were asking if anybody was getting flagged. And I said, yeah, I'm getting 5 flags, and every one of them CD Baby. And they were like, hey, why are you people flagging our videos? Blah, blah, blah. You have no right to. Blah. It was pretty, I was like, wow. You guys don't F around. But
I wouldn't expect anything less from the people that made Hotline Miami. So.
Yeah. And I kind of am, a little upset that I didn't like the game all that much. Man, now I wish I would have loved it. But this whole thing is a huge mess. The other thing that's coming down the pipe, it's supposed to be January next year, is there are things called multi-channel networks, MCNs, and pretty much every YouTuber, at least in the gaming sector, who makes money is in a multi-channel network. The reason is because without getting into details, if you're in a multi-channel network, you don't have to deal, as a content creator, you don't have to deal with the content ID match system. You can just monetize, and again, unless it's a flagrant something that you shouldn't have uploaded, you don't have to worry about it anymore. And as someone who monetized before they were a multi-channel network, it was worth it, because you get so many false claims with the content ID system. And it takes so much time to investigate and dispute and see if they have a legitimate claim or not. It was just I don't want to deal with this. I'll deal with the network. I mean, that's all the network really does for you. They do behind, they're supposed to help you with promotion and stuff like that. But most of these multi-channel networks have thousands of channels under them, so they're not gonna. They don't really able to promote much, and if they did promote all their channels, then it would just get lost.
And they probably get some sort of cut of your monetization.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. There's always a contract, and they get XML. So, what's changing in January is all networks are going to have 2 tiers, and this is pushed down by YouTube. This is what's been pushed down by YouTube. You have your managed people under the network, and then you have affiliates. Managed, pretty much everything else. Everything works as it did before, with the key difference that if a channel gets a strike, and you have that channel as managed, then that strike counts against your network. Before, it just affected the channel. It didn't affect the network. So you definitely want to make 100% sure that managed channel isn't doing anything it wasn't supposed to be doing. The affiliates are still under your umbrella, but one, they don't get to auto monetize, and
which
two,
is the whole point of being there, right?
Correct. And strikes against them doesn't count against your network. So most networks are just mass pushing everyone to affiliate, either everyone or everybody, but they're like 1% to affiliate. The problem is now they offer zero value to the vast majority of people that they're pushing to affiliate.
And they're continuing to take a cut.
Right. And people want to get out of the contracts because there's often 1 and 2 year contracts. Like I signed a 1 year. And apparently several of the networks are pushing back and not letting people out of the contracts, which is incredibly scummy.
Yeah.
Because
they've changed the terms.
Yeah.
I mean,
the entire reason people join is for that one reason. And now that reason is no longer there.
They've redefined the entire relationship.
Exactly.
So I think that constitutes a breach of contract.
And, that's the argument people are making, too. And apparently, like, some people have looked over the contracts, and several of them, like, they don't specify, like, that part of the contract is them doing the auto monetization thing, so they can kind of weasel out of it. But the spirit of the contract has definitely been broken. So there's been a lot of hubbub about that, and that doesn't, again, come until next year.
Are there any MCNs that are, like, stepping up to do the right thing to fight for this? Like, I don't know.
Curse looks like they're actually trying. At first, they said that they were going to try to get the majority of their people under managed, which was definitely not the norm. But the head guy, the CEO of the Curse Network, I guess, he said he's going to step back from that, but he's still going to try to get as many as he can into managed. But Curse has had, I think, stricter requirements, period.
Yeah.
They aren't one of the ones. My understanding of why this happened was, in a nutshell, all these networks, the past year or two, at first it was hard to get into a network. You had to have X viewership and X monthly views. But starting like a year or two ago, pretty much anybody could get into a network.
Yeah.
Because the networks didn't care.
The more the merrier.
Right. Because if you got, these channels, it only gets, 1,000 views a month. But you've got 10,000 of them.
Yeah.
That adds up. And it doesn't really cost them anything. So they're like, yeah, we'll invite everybody. Well, I think what happened was them doing that, and apparently what people were doing was making accounts, getting partnered, uploading, songs and whatever, grabbing that ad revenue, and then by the time the channel got caught and deleted, they'd already made money, and they would just make a new channel again. So, but that just kept happening, and YouTube, I guess, was finally like, all right, this has got to stop because you guys aren't taking responsibility. So I understand them making that change, and a lot of people are directing their anger towards YouTube or directing it towards the networks as far as this change goes. I think both deserve a lot of vitriol because the content ID system is terrible. YouTube is near impossible to get a hold of if there's an error made. They don't punish these companies that abuse the system, and it's incredibly easy to abuse. And they don't talk to people. There's no communication. I'd say the communication is bad, but there is none. They just do not communicate. So
what are the chances of you getting into managed for your MCN?
Close to zero.
I mean, why should it be so difficult to just call you managed? Because you have thousands of videos. You've a clear history that you want to play ball. So shouldn't that be enough for somebody to be like, okay, managed? Because they will then make that money off of you, whereas otherwise they know you're going to leave after the contract's out.
That's what I don't understand is these networks have known about this for weeks. Like some of them tried to pretend that this was a new thing. This has been coming down for weeks. And so they've known about it. They have plenty of time to plan. I don't understand why they didn't say, look, if you have a history of no strikes, no problems, we might move you to managed.
Even if they have a defined threshold of you have X number of videos and you have X, less than this number of incidences or whatever.
Right.
Like they have an equation that makes sense. By any definition, you should be considered a legitimate streamer that should be automatically put into managed.
I think the problem is that they're even considering the thousands of people they have, they would still be thousands in their managed portfolio. And it would only take a few people screwing up.
Oh, I see. Just the risk is so great.
Because of the high number, right? And I'm assuming networks get more than 3 strikes. A lot of people were making the assumption.
Could they make it so that as soon as you reach a certain, the only way to get strikes is for you to appeal a content ID thing. So they should add some sort of level of, if you want to appeal a content ID, we have to approve your appeal. In that way, it prevents us from getting strikes.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think that's the only way to get a strike.
Okay.
I think if you upload something blatantly wrong, like an episode of Breaking Bad or something, then I think they probably jump straight to strikes. Maybe I don't understand how that part works. If nothing else, maybe they just remove your video, or they would probably remove the video, but they might also give you a strike on something that's really, really obvious. So I don't know how that part works. I just don't want on the Let's Playing end.
I think they need to have 2 levels of strikes. Like I guess YouTube is just trying to offload responsibility to the MC.
That's exactly what they're doing, and they're trying to offload responsibility. Period. Not only with that, but with the content ID stuff. Like they're like, look, we made this system, but you guys hash it out. It's like, well, no, you need to take responsibility. And
but if they're offloading responsibility, then they need to change the rules of what strikes constitute, because the penalty of 3 strikes you're out is way too severe for an entire network of people. Well, it should be a different system.
Surely, I would like to hope that the network, if you're a network, you get more than 3 strikes. I would hope. I mean, that people have made that assumption that it's 3 strikes. Since it's 3 strikes for you, it's 3 strikes for a network. I would think that's probably not the case. It's probably more, but it's still a big deal.
Yeah.
But the flip side is a network has a much better ability to communicate with YouTube. Like, you're Joe Blow with less than 1 million subs, YouTube does not give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, they could not possibly care less about you. So getting a hold of them and getting any of this stuff fixed is, like I say, always some kind of a nightmare. So, yeah, the good news in all of this, because I was dreading this Monday, because I knew it was coming Monday, and I was dreading it. And I have to say, some people have definitely gotten really hit hard. Like Angry Joe got hit with tons of ID matches, and a lot of other people have gotten tons. Amazingly enough, even though I've almost got 3,000 videos, I think I might have gotten 10 ID matches, maybe. And
most of those were Hotline Miami?
Yeah, a lot of those are Hotline Miami, and they've all been released since I disputed them. So I've gotten really lucky as far as it goes. Another great thing to see is a lot of companies are coming out and saying, look, no, we want you to monetize. Yeah. If you're getting hit, let us know. Blizzard, Capcom, of all companies, and I kind of felt bad because I kind of poo-pooed on Capcom a little bit the day before, and like the next day they were like, hey, if you're getting hit, let us know. We're trying to get this sorted. So I was like, okay, all right, I'll give you guys props. So
what
Blizzard,
Capcom games have you LP'd?
I've actually got a few old ID matches.
Just Devil May Cry?
Yeah, on Devil May Cry. And I actually disputed one, I think. I kind of want to see what would happen with it, to see if it came back. But it was an old one. Apparently I've got like these old content ID matches that I never wanted to fiddle with because I didn't know that you could dispute and not get a strike.
Yeah.
Because like I did Dead Space and it had a content ID with EA, and I was like, well, EA made the game, so whatever. So I just let it go. But talking to people, they're like, yeah, pretty much always dispute. Yeah. And if they say no, then no big deal. But a lot of them will just be like, yeah, go ahead, whatever.
Yeah. And I think what's what's cool about this, I guess the silver lining on this is that it's forced this conversation to happen so that everybody has to explicitly state their stance on it. Like, and unfortunately, some people, the explicit statement on that is you need to ask. So, like, for some people, like, was it Devolver Digital that did Hotline Miami?
Yeah, and Devolver Digital actually made a website called Can I Monetize DevolverGames.com, and it just says yes.
on it. So they've explicitly given but Ubisoft put out like, hey, this is going on, but here's how we feel. This is our statement on it. And if you look on the page and you see like what's Ubisoft's take on all this, can you monetize videos? Their answer is you need to ask us.
No, I don't know if you've ever seen an old one. But they specifically state, like, you can monetize, like, Let's Plays and stuff on YouTube.
Well, the one I saw said you need explicit permission.
There was, like, one sentence in there that basically... Because at first I was reading it, and I was like, this is a little ambiguous. But then it was like... I don't know if they call it Let's Play, but they said something about if you're showing gameplay commentary video on YouTube and you want to monetize it, go ahead.
Okay.
Like, it was like that's one cool, sentence.
That's cool.
So,
but it's forced game companies to come out
address
and
this.
Make a stance on it because it's better for game companies to say how they feel about it now than for you to all of a sudden like Nintendo to come out and be like you can't stream Smash Brothers this thing or whatever like for them to just stay what it is because there's some companies that are still behind on this stuff.
Nintendo, Konami.
It's good for the companies that are more progressive to set an example because without them explicitly saying that this is good for the industry, then a lot of those behind the times companies don't realize it as
Konami.
much. Yes, Nintendo, Konami.
Sega. Sega's also really bad. Somebody was saying that Sega's gotten better. I don't know. Ubisoft, a little off topic, but I got to give props to Ubisoft. Like a year ago, I freaking did not like Ubisoft. Like they were doing so much dumb crap, like the always online connection with Assassin's Creed.
Oh yeah, the passes. Passes.
They were just effing up left and right. But they have really gotten their shit together, like in the last year, and they're like, you know what, you're right. Let's redo this. And they did this game called Cloudberry Kingdom. It's a platformer, and they actually created a contest for Let's Players. And
that's cool.
They contacted them and said, "Hey, you should play our game and try to do the leaderboards. And if you win top rank, you get like 100 codes. It was crazy for Cloudberry Kingdom, and you can do all the videos you want and blah blah blah." So they were like very very proactive about it. And now the statement that they've released saying we're totally cool with you doing this, they've really turned around. But the big ones that I could think of, like the big companies, Capcom, Blizzard, and Ubisoft. Square Enix America has come out and said it's okay. Square Enix Japan,
it's weird that those two companies aren't talking together, like are in disagreement of that.
It's kind of weird too, seeing how Japanese companies in general seem to be behind the curve, and it's not racist. It's just factual. Nintendo, Sega, Konami. Konami's Japan. Konami's Japanese. Square Enix Japan, they just seem to be like this whole old mindset, and even there was a quote from one of the guys who did the cinematics for Brawl. Like he said they weren't going to do that for this new one because they would just end up on YouTube. It's like, really? Like that's your excuse?
Yeah. Oh, you mean like fans might see it and get excited about it?
Wouldn't that be terrible if people got to see? Yeah, it's like they're just so like backwards thinking. They need to really get with the program. Nintendo's probably the worst.
Yeah,
because they've doubled down. They're like, nope, we're totally want you not to be able. And people will argue like, well, they have the legal right to do it. Sure, they absolutely have the legal right to do it.
It's not stupid. You have the legal right to do a lot of stupid things.
The CEO of Nintendo could come out and say that they had to dumb their dank games down because every other country is full of mouth-breathing idiots. That's legal for him to do. Is it smart business? No, it absolutely isn't. And it's just idiotic for them to try to get these pennies of ad revenue.
The legality of something has never been a strong defense of doing something.
Right. Like, just saying something is in talking about business, just flat out saying something is is legal is not a good defense. The problem is, one, now people are just going to cover your games less. Like Northern Lion, I don't think has covered Nintendo games since this went down. I'm sure I don't think Total Biscuit has. I don't think he plans on covering any Nintendo games going forward. There's a lot of big YouTubers who now won't touch Nintendo games.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of free press that they're missing because they want to make a few pennies on ad revenue. It's such backwards thinking that you have to wonder. And we're like, well, Nintendo sells, bajillions of copies. That's fine, but the thing is, if I get offered you a $100 bill and a $50 bill, and I said, there's no negatives, there's no stipulations, take which one you want. Like, you'd be
obviously the $50 bill.
Even if you were Warren Buffett, you're going to take the $100 bill because it's worth more, unless you're just stupid. And in this case, they're taking the $50 bill for no reason, and they're generating ill will. Like, they've already, in the gaming community, don't have the greatest reputation, and they continue to poop all over that. With the Content ID stuff, with that whole Smash Brothers fiasco, they just like Microsoft and Nintendo are in a race to see who can screw up the most, and Nintendo is probably a little behind. They need to catch up. They need to catch up because Microsoft's been making a lot of bungles lately.
I don't know. I feel like Microsoft started at least. They make a lot of bungles, but they immediately like, all right, we'll try to fix this. Nintendo
did they ever
doubles
revert?
Down like this kind of like
Nintendo.
We did make that decision. Like, all right,
this wasn't accidental. Like, we're protecting our IP. It's like, all right. But it's good to see a lot of companies, flat out. Obviously, indie companies are like, no, please, God, please monetize exposure. The hell out of our videos. We don't care. Because they're not morons and they understand. The thing is, they understand the power of YouTube. Minecraft, do you think Minecraft would be anywhere near as popular as it is today without YouTube? Probably not.
Did you know that Notch is I think, number 3rd highest taxpayer in his country?
Really?
Yeah, like, I forget where he's from. Is it Sweden? I don't know. I'm completely wrong. It's European, but
some other one of those
non-U.S. country,
non-American,
non-American. But he's the 3rd highest taxpayer in this country.
But I mean, YouTube helped explode his game, and I mean, I've actually heard people argue, well, the people just won't buy the game if they can watch it on YouTube. That's such a terrible argument. Playing games isn't like reading a book or watching a movie. It's about playing the game yourself. You want to play the game yourself. Yeah. That's why when you're, with friends or when you were kids and you would pass a controller back and forth. I mean, why bother? Just have one person play it, everybody else watch. Like, no, it's about playing the game yourself.
It's an interesting problem, though, because, video games are a unique medium in that they have a variable range of interactivity. I mean, like, a game like Walking Dead is not as interactive as... Tetris,
Yeah.
And so your enjoyment out of Tetris is more hinged on the interaction, whereas your enjoyment out of Walking Dead is more the narrative.
Yeah.
And so I'm not in any way justifying people restricting monetization on videos, but I feel like somebody who made Walking Dead would have a better case of you shouldn't be able to watch that than Tetris, So If there is a game that is story heavy and that's just about the story, you could see somebody watching it on YouTube and they're like, well, I don't need to play it. Somebody played it for me.
I think that's a very valid argument.
Yeah.
And games that are very, very story based and not much on gameplay, then yes, absolutely, there's very good chance that people will just watch videos.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that is a fringe case, though. I mean, I don't think... I think even in story-based games, that doesn't account for much. And so it's not necessarily an argument that should limit monetization on games in general.
Right.
But it is an interesting, I guess, end of the spectrum to think about. Right,
yeah, and because that has come up where... In the defense I've heard certain people use against that is, well, you need to make a better game. Because I mean, Walking Dead was, like an interactive book, really, where you make a few choices and click the screen in a few areas during certain time segments. It was like a quick time event to the game, but the story was so good people didn't really care.
But I don't think we should necessarily jump to conclusions that the percentage of interactivity of a game is indicative of its quality. Like,
no, I wouldn't say that. I would say
I don't think Walking Dead should be more interactive than it is. I think it's fine as it is. Like, I don't think we should try to make every game
a game.
Yeah, I mean, like there's nothing wrong with an endless spectrum of interactivity, and if you want to make a choose your own adventure game where you're just choosing the decisions of characters to make along the way, there should be no penalty for that. There should be no one who says that's wrong.
I don't think it's. I mean, and that's a whole other discussion about what makes a game. Because I remember when I finished Walking Dead and I was doing my kind of quick review, I made like an offhand comment about how I loved the game, and I was like, well, if you can even call it a game.
Yeah.
Even though I loved it. Because there's a whole discussion about what makes a game and blah, 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 and I don't want to get into that. But in a nutshell, I think there is a line where you could easily, if somebody were to argue they didn't think Walking Dead was a game, I can't argue with that. Like, well, I guess I could. But I could absolutely see that because I don't really consider it a game by normal standards because the mechanics just aren't there. And anyway, like I said, I don't want to get off topic, but yes, I do think there is an argument to be made that games are super story based and not about the experience of playing it yourself. Would have an argument against that. Yeah. But again, I think that's very rare.
It's a very low percentage of the games we play.
Right, exactly. So I think that, and if nothing else, I think it's the opposite. I think people tend to buy games after they watch. Mm-hmm. And especially nowadays, because they're so, wrongly or rightly, gaming journalist sites often don't get much credit, and Metacritic is often looked down upon. So I think a lot of people are starting to use those sites less, maybe. And I hear people all the time say, "Oh, well, I just look up game video first before I decide if I want to buy it or not." Mm. And who are they going to trust more? Like GameSpot or the company who made it? Or some guy who's just like, hey, I'm just some dude or some woman, and I'm just going to play this game and tell you what I think about it. It's just much more credible to see somebody like you sitting down and just playing the game and giving their honest feedback on it while they're playing it. And because I've, even with my viewership isn't that large, but I hear pretty frequently that people are like, oh, this game looks cool, I'm going to buy this, or I bought this because of your video. And it happens all the time. And I've done it. For example, Northern Lion does the Crusader Kings, and I think I'd just vaguely heard of that game before I'd seen him do it. But I watched him, and I was like, oh, this game seems pretty cool, and I've bought it. And I know other people who I've shown his videos to, they bought it. Mm-hmm. And those sales would have never happened without that. And I think a lot of people... small companies realize that this is happening.
Yep.
I think the bigger companies run by like people who are, I say nicer, old people who are just stuck in old ways and think this is the way you do this, aren't adapting properly, and they don't see the value in all this free advertising they're getting. The only thing they're losing is ad revenue off these videos, which is a pittance to them compared to the number of copies of games that they sell.
I think it's also... I think companies get skittish when it enters a realm that is it becomes impossible to quantify. Yeah. So you can't possibly quantify the amount of sales earned from somebody who saw a Let's Play and decided, I'm going to buy it based on a Let's Play. And I know this from working with people at my work, is that there's people who are all about revenue optimization and like, adjusting price, making price changes so that they can make the most amount of money on a given service. And they attribute, they will take in, they put 95% of their weight towards quantifiable data and hardly anything towards qualitative data. And so you and I agree that qualitatively, more people will buy games based off Let's Play videos. Mm-hmm. And I think most people who are younger and open-minded to the industry will realize, yeah, that's definitely true. But good luck crunching together quantitative numbers on that experience that's happening.
Yeah.
And so a lot of old school business, and I'm not one to say that this is right or wrong, but a lot of old school business is put all of your faith and trust into quantitative data. Because qualitative data isn't worth shit. And so that's why you see a lot of this, like, well, I can get quantitative money from ad revenue on these videos, and so I'm going to fight to get that quantitative increase in revenue. And that's why they're, I think, pushing that. It's like way over this phenomenon of people seeing Let's Play and buying the games.
And I think another problem is a lot of these executives don't play games, and they associate games with old media, music, TV, movies. And if somebody uploads a movie, Lord of the Rings, on YouTube, and I can just watch it there, I don't need to buy the Blu-ray or whatever. So that actually is damaging. But they think, oh, well, if somebody could just watch my game, why would they play it? So that's pointless. So they don't understand that, no, this is different. It doesn't work like that.
And I think encouraging Let's Players to monetize videos requires trust and understanding of the industry. That it's like they trust that this will increase sales for games because people will see it, and they understand that gamers like it this way. And I think a lot of the old guard don't rely on trust and understanding.
Right.
That, that it's like that's just not the way it works, because they don't understand the games industry as well as they used to, and that's it's as any industry evolves, things change. And so
a lot of the old, and we've both experienced this working for bigger companies, the older people who have been there don't adapt.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the way it was when I started doing it, and it worked then. So this is how it should work for forever. And it doesn't. Especially these days, it just doesn't work that way.
And that's not to say that you can't have grown up in the industry and think flexible. And there's still lots of people who were around, in the 80s in the game industry that are doing the right thing. And So we're not, this is not the, we're not condemning old people on this podcast.
I'm condemning old people. Okay. He's not.
Johnny is condemning old people. I'm saying that old people can think flexibly and pivot with the industry.
Right. But a lot are not.
In general terms, you see that happen a lot that they don't.
Especially in Japan. For whatever reason. I think it's
crap on old people and Japanese people.
I think it's in all seriousness, I think in Japan it might be a cultural thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know enough about Japan to
I think if you look at Sony's big shift, it was on them relying on more Western leadership. And I mean, like when they hired Mark Cerny, like we need you to just head up the architecture of the PlayStation 4, and you basically take this and do what you will with it. And I think Mark Cerny's like, here's the things we need to change. We need to make this more developer friendly. We need to get out there and get and elicit feedback from a lot of developers. And I think that informed a lot of the success of the PlayStation 4's design.
Yeah, and I think they looked at their situation and said, okay, what did we do wrong? How can we sell more units? And the answer was make people love you.
Yeah.
And make a system for the gamers and appeal to them, cater to them. And that's exactly what they've done. Mm-hmm. And, outside of Japan, that's worked really well. I'm assuming in Japan as well. But, and again, it could be a cultural thing. I don't know. I mean, there are cultural differences. There's things super popular in America that won't work anywhere else because of the culture in America. So,
and they've created offices whose sole job is just to go out and court indies. Like,
right, yeah,
just like go get as many indies as you can. Be like, see what these people need, and they've definitely changed their opinion on it. Used to, the PlayStation 3 was all about a dictating of this is the system, this is the cell, and this is what you're going to develop for.
I do think
the way it's going to be.
To be fair, too, I think, and this is totally just my thought. I don't have any evidence to back this up, but my feeling is up high. Sony also said you will push the Blu-ray in this, and that really jacked the price up too.
And Sony's has historically been, a single company that just is so disorganized that they have all these different divisions telling the other divisions how it's going to be. I mean, if you look at Sony Music, Sony Consumer Electronics, and Sony Computer Entertainment, they might as well be completely different companies.
I often think of them as totally different companies.
And Sony Pictures,
in my mind, I don't envision them all being under the Sony umbrella.
I mean, if you could get those properties and companies organized in a coherent fashion, they really should be doing a lot more business than they're doing. I mean, you look at Sony Pictures and Sony Music and what they own, it's pretty amazing, actually, what they've been able to, their portfolio, but they've never really been able to get a consistent track record. It's a lot of, they've had a lot of definite successes in the past. I mean, Walkman and PlayStation are huge.
Yeah. Yeah, they've knocked it out of the PS3 or the 4 because I've heard they're still very hard to get a hold of.
Yeah,
they sell out very quickly.
This is a quote from Jack Tretton, so take it with a grain of salt. This may not be true, but he stated that Amazon, like yesterday when Amazon released PlayStation 4s in stock, they released 12,000 and they were gone in 27 minutes.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so that, I don't see how you could
lie about.
Yeah, you were either straight up lying because he was using hard numbers, so it was hard to. But did you see how God bless them, I'm not trying to crap on Microsoft here, but did you see how they spun the NPD news?
I saw some, but I saw Nelson's tweet, but I didn't quite understand. It was
beautiful. Like they said that Xbox One was the fastest selling next generation system. So basically, they took an average of the number of days the Xbox One was available, and they said it sold 111,000 units per day. It averaged 111,000 units per day. So I guess the stipulation was, if only we had another week, we would have sold double that. But
I've heard
they both sold through stock in the first day. That's just the way it works.
Anecdotally, I have heard people say that they've seen just Xbox Ones in their stores.
I have. I personally have seen lots of Xbox Ones in the stores. A Microsoft store had a bunch of them, and I've seen them at Target the Saturday after Black Friday.
Wow.
And I have not seen a single PlayStation 4 in the wild. But other than anecdotal evidence, that's all you have to go on. And even then,
well, even Sony's being overly vague about how many I don't understand why.
But even then, it's only one half of the equation. Like, that Xbox One, that there's more supply of Xbox One than PlayStation 4, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's more demand.
Right.
We as gamers can feel that there's more demand for the PlayStation 4, but there's no way to compare demand when there is supply constraint.
Right. And I really don't understand why Sony has not been more forthcoming, but I feel it's not a leap to say that Sony is outselling.
No, I think it's really close though.
You think so? You think there's been that many less PlayStations made available?
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of supply lock on PlayStation 4 that doesn't exist for Xbox One.
So, why do you feel that way?
Well,
or is Xbox just in America
latest
right
number?
Now?
No, Xbox One is in 17 regions. PlayStation 4 is only in North America and Europe and Australia, I think.
So even though they've got less regions to cover right now, there's still less PlayStation 4s going out.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I really think like Xbox One is getting close to the point at which there won't be a shortage. So at that point, we'll realize how many people really want Xbox Ones. At this point, you don't know how many people really want PlayStation 4s because there's so many people that want them and can't get them because they're limited by supply.
Right.
But I really think, the latest estimates I've heard are that PlayStation 4 is a little above 2 million and Xbox One is above 2 million. So they're really close. But that is more because Sony is more supply constrained than Microsoft. In my anecdotal evidence, what I've seen.
Yeah, I haven't looked into the whole, the specific numbers as far as...
we're all just being armchair analysts at this point anyway. So
yeah,
whatever we say doesn't mean anything.
Both refuse to, just flat out say because God knows that would be horrible. But to close up on at least the YouTube thing, yeah, it's just a huge mess. And I definitely feel for people who are doing this as their full-time job and as someone who would love to do this as a job. It's definitely disheartening to say the least, but things have gone way better than I anticipated, because the other really good thing about this is that it's been getting a lot of not a lot, but it's getting significant press.
Yeah, the average gamer's talking about it, whereas before this happened, only YouTubers and serious Let's Play people that watched a lot of Let's Play videos cared about this problem.
Yeah, I had assumed that when this went live that nobody, it would just be affect us, people who upload, and then nobody else would know about it. But there was actually the last Address to Cess with Adam Sessler was all about the YouTube thing.
Yep.
He had Total Biscuit on. He had somebody from Devolver. He had a PR, Stephanie Shoup from a Tinsley PR, I think, who I've dealt with. And they were all talking about it, and it was really cool to see it get that kind of attention. I think Kotaku had an article with Angry Joe. I don't know if any of the other big ones like Polygon, Destructoid, Giant Bomb, I don't know if any of them have covered this at all, probably. But I'm kind of hoping it's a deal where, oh, well, damn it, this site's covering it, so I better cover it. And then it just kind of, because the more people hear about this, the better. Because I'm really hoping YouTube gets some pressure. They probably don't care, but I'm hoping maybe something
I think they're just
changes.
Waiting for it all to die out.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
I think what's happened though is, at the very least, we've gotten companies to explicitly state their policy on this stuff.
Yeah, and now it's kind of them fighting either the people claiming the rights, because a lot of times it's not even them claiming the rights. And another problem I've heard with problem number 5672 with the Content ID thing is that a lot of times you will get permission to use that material and present it to YouTube, and they still won't release the claim or whatever, or they take forever to do it, weeks to do it, if they do it at all. So the whole system is just a huge broken mess, and this is all just coming to a head now because they're well, we're throwing it on, and all of you people are going to have to start dealing with this again, and the whole reason you went with the network is now gone, and now you have to deal with our incredibly broken, abusable system.
Yeah.
And it's just a huge cluster, and you're starting to see a lot more people now look at alternatives. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of people going to Twitch for live streaming. Twitch, I'm sure, loves this. They're like, hell yeah, yes. Come on over.
Nice.
Which, it actually, it's really surprising to me that Twitch hasn't gotten hit with anything like this. Because there'll be people streaming, they'll be streaming stuff like StarCraft or WoW or whatever, where it's, kind of the same thing over and over. And they'll have, just music playing in the background, playing whatever song. And you never, ever hear about somebody getting hit in trouble for that.
But I think it's such a dumb stretch that these music companies that own this content would posit that somebody wants to go out and listen to their song while somebody's playing a game and putting commentary over it. It's not like I'm like, man, I really want to hear that new Beyonce album. I hope somebody's playing a game and talking about the game while listening to Beyonce. Like,
maybe I'm just too cynical, but I don't picture them thinking of it that way. I picture them going, they're playing our song. Like that's where their thought process stops. In my mind, they're playing our song, and we're not making money off of this. That's where it stops for them. I feel like they feel like the person playing the game, the person commentating, that's all secondary. So all really, they know is they're playing our song, and we're not getting paid for it.
This all stems from just a lack of common sense about things. It's like, why can't a song just exist and it happened to be in the background while somebody was doing something different? Like,
the thing is, I don't think
everything
it's common
is
sense.
a leverage to make more money. Like,
I think that's what it is. I don't think it's a common sense thing or lack thereof. I think it's more of we can make money.
Yeah.
Like, they're playing our songs, we should be getting a cut of this.
But I mean, it is an ability to make money that matters more to them than common sense. So it's like it's okay to have a lack of common sense if there's money to be made. Like,
right. I mean, that's like when you hear when they're fighting people because they have like there's like a viral video where somebody doing something, but in the background you hear a radio with Miley Cyrus or something on it, and they're like, oh no, we totally get a portion of that. Because it's got, it's her music's back. It doesn't have anything to do with anything, but, it's got our music. Leeches. Which is yet another problem with the Content ID system, where if you get flagged for 10 seconds of music and you have a 20-minute video, they get 100%. Like, there's no split.
That is so dumb.
Like, Angry Joe talked about this. Going back to him again, he said that he was going through his IDs, and one of them was music, and he timed it was like a 13-second clip of music in a 30-minute video. But because they claimed it, 100% ad revenue goes to them.
And the burden of proof falls upon the content creator.
Correct. To prove that. And again, if they appeal it, I mean now, or if they reject your dispute and you appeal it, one, you're risking a strike. And two, if they deny it, then you have to try to claim that, it's fair use, or you have to claim, or you show that you own the rights to it, or it's just such a huge mess.
Stupid.
And the YouTube is just so hands off and so non-communicating with us or anyone about anything. It's just such a cluster, and this is such a ripe time for someone to come in and make something better.
Yeah.
But so many of the other ones have their own problems, like not blip.tv, but there's another one that's like they don't want any kind of monetization or something on videos, and then there's other ones that have their other problems. So I think people, Twitch is the most obvious answer for gamers. Yeah. It's like, you know what, screw YouTube. It'll be a side thing. I'm going to focus on Twitch. I could definitely see that happening more this year, and because YouTube is just pooping all over.
And Twitch's popularity is growing a lot.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's going, and this can only help.
Yeah.
This can only help. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a pretty significant, maybe not like a huge growth from this. I don't see people who are making their money on YouTube just en masse going to Twitch, but I could definitely see like people streaming more, like doing both. And maybe starting to slowly do less content for YouTube so they don't have to deal with YouTube's BS. And, again, to be fair, a lot of this goes back to the god-awful copyright laws we have in America. Which, that, again, is a whole nother topic. But, just in a nutshell, this kind of in a nutshell. I don't think you say in a nutshell when it's like an hour long. But, that's what's going on with YouTube. Again, it's people aren't getting their channels shut down, and they're not getting all these strikes out of nowhere, but they're having a dispute. The dispute process can take hours, but more like days. I've put a few disputes in like a week ago.
But there's a lot of people who this is how they live, and that can affect their life.
Absolutely, especially when it takes days.
Yeah,
and when the majority of your views come in the first 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
So that's a big hit to them. That's like saying, well, we're going to expect you to come into work every hour or every day for 8 hours. We're just not going to pay you for like the first 2 hours that you're here because you're just drinking coffee and stuff anyway. So we're just going to cut that out. So it's a big deal, and it is a legitimate profession, and that's a whole other thing I could talk about. It's legitimate.
The funny thing is, I see all these things about, I can't believe somebody would say get a real job, and that's ridiculous. That's crazy.
If you have
I didn't see anybody say that though.
I have.
Really, man.
Like if you say that
boggles my mind.
I'm going to put it on the table. If you say that, you're a moron. Like. Yeah. I've always thought that's a stupid expression when dealing with various things that people don't like you hear it a lot with maybe women who are work at a strip joint or something like that. They get a real job. I'm like, I'm sorry. First of all, when you start paying that person's bills, that's when you get to tell them things like that. And secondly, if it's legal, and I don't see a problem. It's a real job now.
We just said earlier that legality is not defensible.
Well, as far as
I know, it's just ironic that you said if it's legal.
Yeah, if it's legal, then when we're talking about a job, then it totally counts as a job. And I think it's silly to say, well, I don't think that takes a lot of effort, and therefore that's not a real job. I mean, how many people have totally cush jobs where they don't do anything for 7 out of the 8 hours days?
Yeah.
And they get paid. That's a real job. It's so is it just not a real job unless you hate it? Is that the criteria? If you don't
That's
hate
usually
your
what
job,
they mean by get a real job. If you should be unhappy
if your job isn't soul crushing, it's not a real job. So I mean, I think that's just so asinine. Obviously, it's legal. They're making money. They're doing a service. They're providing entertainment.
The people that do that stuff work so hard. And it's they work 70, 80-hour weeks. And for you to even suggest that they're not working hard is
I think Nerd
so
Cube
arrogant and stupid.
Actually had to go to a doctor once because he was putting in so much time and he was so stressed about his channel months ago, or maybe even longer than that. Even my channel, I'm not working right now. I would like to have my channel as a full-time job eventually, but even now I could easily spend 50 to 60 hours on my channel. If I don't work on my channel at least a few hours in a day, I feel bad. And I always feel like there's more to do. There's so much more to it. Again, if you just want to play games and talk over them and throw them up on YouTube, I mean, that's great, but you're never going to get anywhere. Unless you're just the most hilarious person and are super talented at getting all your audio stuff set up and perfect on the first try. It's just not going to happen. You have to put serious time and effort into this stuff.
So I think moving on, the only other thing I wanted to talk about was the VGX was last week. We recorded before the VGX, so we hadn't watched it at that point. But did you actually get to watch them?
Saw the second half, I think.
Yeah.
Did you see them at all?
I didn't get to see them at all. I was I wanted to watch them, but I just couldn't get to the internet in time. I don't know. We were out doing Christmas shopping, and so. But it sounds like I didn't miss anything.
You got the better end of that deal.
I did watch a compilation of all the dropped jokes and awkward moments by Joel McHale, and that was painful.
I mean, maybe he's a funny guy outside of that. I don't know who he is, but in the context of that show, he was awful. He was absolutely terrible.
He didn't know anything about games. He was just put into these situations with interviews, and it's I think he was grasping to make jokes wherever he could, but had no idea what was going on.
And the thing is, I totally can understand the awkwardness of, oops, I made this joke, it didn't fly. But he just kept trying over and over. It's at some point, just shut up. And I understand you're there to try to make the funny, bring the funny. But when you realize in the 3-hour show, an hour and a half in, and he had to know his jokes were bombing.
Yeah,
because there'd be these awkward silences, and so it's just stop. Just ask legit things that sound like legit questions, or whatever. Just stop. But he just kept going. It was just so awful, and
I think another problem with that show, it's like they don't even know what they want to do with it. Like, it's not a video game awards show anymore. No, it's just not. This acronym that doesn't stand for anything. And so it's an opportunity to announce things, but then they still did give awards. But then, like, it's like they didn't even think it through because they announced the awards, and then you could hear, like, cameramen clapping. Like,
yeah,
it's like,
that was weird.
Nobody thought about the fact that there was, like, they announced an award winner and then paused. Oh, there's not an audience here.
Yeah.
It's just...
like a huge oversight.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That part doesn't work very well.
Yeah, it's almost like smartphones. How I think of smartphones now is like people like when I mentioned like the thing I use the phone for the least is talking to people. It's like, well, it's a phone. It's like it's not a phone. Mm. It's a PDA. We've just gotten used to calling them phones.
Right.
Like if you think about your phone, you probably use it the least for talking, or not the least, but one of the things you don't do much on it is talk. You use it for Twitter, Facebook, checking the web, weather, whatever. It's not a phone anymore. It's like the same. That's what they've done with the VGX. It's like a trailer interview show that also has awards. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just, I don't know. And
it's just this weird hybrid. They don't know what to do with it. It wasn't even on Spike. Like it was on the internet. I think it wasn't on television at all. And I do see a place eventually where, movies and music have their own established like academies of awards where they get, Oscars and Grammys and things like that. Like I would like to get to a point where there is a recognized, like, this is the most important video game award you can get.
Right.
I see value in that, and I think that would be cool to have some of the brightest minds in video games come to a decision that this game had the best writing, this game had the best sound design, this game had the best visual art, and that would be really cool. And to have a grown-up award show that's not dumbed down and brodified, or whatever you want to say, to be lowest common denominator. I would like to have an intelligent way to reward the best games of the year in a show. I would watch, and I mean, the thing is, you need to realize with any of these award shows is no one's ever going to be happy. Like every year, the Oscars and the Emmys and people bitch and moan the next day, whatever. They're always going to suck like a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're going to get fun of. This was pretty bad. Like it's just directionless and like a train wreck. Like, I mean, it's really hard to compare them because they've been terrible. They've always been terrible, but at least in the past, they've had a goal that they were going for, whereas this seemed pretty directionless to me.
Yeah, and there's just some things you have to wonder, like how they even approved, like what was it, the crew they kept cutting to, like the music crew or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know who they were called, but I did see clips of that, and it's just like they were looking around at like for clues of other people. Of
and they kept
they didn't rehearse ever.
Yeah, and they kept acting like, they're going to cut back. Oh wait, we're not supposed to cut back yet. It's like, oh my god, it's like.
It was so.
And can we stop
hackneyed.
with the musical acts?
Yeah.
Can we please stop? Not every goddamn award show has to have musical acts. Let's stop. Just stop. Stop with the stupid, pointless musical acts. Nobody wants to hear the live version of GTA 5. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it's a video game award show.
I could see. Like, say there was some video game award show when Portal came out. I would like to see a live performance of Still Alive. That wouldn't be bad.
How would that work? They modulate her voice. I guess they could do it live.
They do that live. Can
they do it live?
Yeah, they have modulators that they do live, and it's like what autotune is. But
which is real music, by the way.
Of course, that's its own genre. But I guess it's kind of like in. I'm a big baseball fan, so I'm going to use a baseball analogy for all you guys out there. But you have building years where you just recognize we're going to be really shitty this year. But it is a requirement that we are shitty for a few years so that we rebuild our franchise. And VGX, or whatever it is, must be going through that right now because they have to go back to the drawing board and redesign what it is that show is going to be. And I guess the most optimistic part of me thinks, well, maybe that's what they're doing right now and they'll hit on it. But like right now, I mean, there was like the only thing I expected out of it were some announcements. And so there was some news out of it. So the first thing that I wrote down was No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
I think that looks really interesting. Have you seen the trailer or read about that at all?
A little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't really know that much about it. Honestly, when I saw the trailer about it on the show, I think I wasn't like blown away. Like I know people are like, oh my god, this looks amazing! I can't wait. I think the only thing exciting about it is the conceptual design of it, but like visually, I don't think there's anything that's like okay, that looks interesting. Yeah.
But I think so basically, No Man's Sky is being developed by 4 guys.
Yeah.
The guys who did Joe Danger, which I haven't played, but it's been successful for them. And the idea of No Man's Sky is an entirely procedurally generated universe. Every planet, every ecosystem, every animal is designed by a routine, and is basically this universe is just this giant universe is spawned. And the way they view the gameplay of it is that it's not necessarily going to be an MMO, but there is a persistent universe.
Yeah.
And that everyone is exploring the same universe.
Yeah.
And so it's all about exploration. You find a planet, you find a lake on a planet, you find a valley in a planet. And if you're the first person there in the world, you're the discoverer, and it says anybody who goes there will say this was discovered by Capanius. And I think that's kind of a neat element.
Yeah.
And the idea is that everybody starts on the fringe of this galaxy.
Yeah.
And there is a center point, and everybody has to get there. And they estimate it might take months for a single person to get there, because the more inward to the galaxy you go, the more hostile it gets.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting. Another cool thing is you have your spaceship and you can explore and everything, and you have to manage resources. And if your spaceship crash lands on a planet, you're screwed. You're there. You've got to find a way to get communication to a friend to help you out. Can you bring me a part? Or can you do this? And it's I think there is a lot of potential on that. And I always have to kind of restrain my excitement when a game is nothing but potential. Because right now, it's just potential. It's these 4 guys talking about this idea, and their ideas are interesting. But if Peter Molyneux has taught me anything, it's that I should not get too excited by concept. It just totally this. I just imagine we're gonna find out that Peter Molyneux's behind this whole thing.
He was afraid to put his name on it because it'd be anti-hype.
Exactly.
It's oh man.
It's this was really my idea.
Yeah, sorry guys. I know you have a list, but I wanted to mention this. Gone Home won Indie Game of the Year, I think.
Okay.
Do you feel that was pandering, or do you think it really deserved Game of the Year, Indie Game of the Year?
I think it deserved it. I mean, I think you could make an argument that Brothers. I think you can make an argument that either that or Brothers deserved it. I mean, what were the nominees? Do you remember?
I don't remember the nominees, but what was the other big indie? Oh, Stanley Parable.
Yeah.
What was there? What was
I
the
didn't
other
play
one?
that one. Those were the 3 big ones this year, I think.
Yeah. The thing is, and I haven't played Gone Home. Hopefully, it goes on sale in December because I want to play it so I can finally actually experience and talk about it. But if I talked to several people who have played it, and one person in particular, I mentioned her last time, who loved it. And I was like, okay, do you really think this was Game of the Year, or do you think this was just kind of pandering? And even the woman who really liked it, she was like, I love this game, but it wasn't Game of the Year. She's like,
well, I think the Indie Game of the Year category is an interesting one, because the whole it really depends on how you feel an indie game's quality should be evaluated.
Yeah.
And I think, in a sense, indie games are encouraged to do things that AAA games aren't supposed to do. And so if you just judge the experience of that game, that's one portion of it, but I think another portion of it is what that game has done uniquely. And I think that's what's unique amongst indie games is that it's encouraged that they should be experimental medium, like pushing the boundaries of the medium. And I think Gone Home did an excellent job in storytelling. And it did make me like, it was the second most, sorry, let me find the best way to phrase this. Of all the games that resonated with me emotionally, it probably connected with me the second most. Like, Brothers made me feel the most this year. And Gone Home made me feel a lot. And I can see how you could make the argument that this was a very important game for the industry, or for how it made people feel emotionally. Like, and it's hard to quantitatively say like this game is better than this game when you're getting into the artistic realm of how a game makes you feel.
To me, it means more of a game of the year really needs to, in my opinion, be accessible and be enjoyable by a wide range of people.
That's why I think the subcategory of indie game of the year is, I don't think indie games should be accessible, and I think they should be easy, narrow, and experimental.
I don't mean necessarily like easy. I
know, but I don't think they should be accessible in any like definition. I mean, I guess you think you want them to be experienced by as many people as possible,
right?
But in a sense, accessibility can make a game have a problem of lowest common denominator. Like, it's kind of like on Indie Game the Movie, and I know you're not a big fan of Jonathan Blow, but
Lord, no.
I'm not a huge fan of him either, but I think the way he explained this was spot on, in that a problem with a lot of AAA games is that as they are developed by so many people, and they are so polished and smoothed out that they lose a lot of their character and their feel and their initial emotional intent. Whereas an indie game can be developed by such a small number of people that it can have a very focused experience, and it can its design of how it can elicit emotion can be directed very specifically. And I think that is what indie games are for, is not necessarily accessibility and their ability to draw in as many people as possible. I think they serve really well when they are just a single person's perception on what this game should be, a more focused, directed thing. And I think Gone Home did a really good job of that.
I again, it's hard to talk on it because I haven't played it, but I think my problem is it seems more like it's focused to specific people, and and again, it doesn't have to apply to everyone, not even like 90% or 80% of people, but
it is an art game, and I mean,
yeah,
you're giving it's the same problem that movie awards sometimes have, and that a very focused, specific, arty movie can win a category like best foreign film. A lot of people don't connect with the best foreign film category in movie awards because, like, I don't want to watch subtitles or like.
Well, that's a specific subgenre of movie, though. Like best foreign movie awards. I mean, that's very focus. Like if this was like most emotionally draining movie or game,
most feels.
I
don't know. I guess that's a bad example then. But independent films, in the same way, are often more targeted emotionally, and they don't have a broader appeal. And so,
well, broader appeal as in appealing to more people. More people can watch it and enjoy it. And again, I'm totally against like the dumbing down of games in general just to sell, 10 million copies instead of only selling, 3 million or whatever. But if you want to be a good game, then you need to appeal to a lot of different people, in my opinion. Just like you talked about with
but I think if that is your direction towards something, you want to make a good game that appeals to the most amount of people. Well,
not the most amount, but a decent amount of people should be able to sit down and enjoy it. Look at Motherload, right? Mm-hmm. You enjoy it. You're a hardcore gamer, but your wife also enjoyed it, and she's like, she casually games. It applies. It's fun and enjoyable to play to a wide range of people without being like dumbed down.
But Super Motherload was not designed to elicit any emotion.
So are you saying that like Indie Game of the Year has to elicit emotion?
No. But I think it should be encouraged to push the boundaries of our games as games as art. I think that is where the battlefront is happening right now. Is indie games are finding out what works artistically to push a narrative or to make an audience feel. And I like that. And so I think indie games should be encouraged. Like, that's why we have 2 or 3 people working on a game, because they have a specific direction as to what they think they should be doing. And so I think that's the right place to have them. So I think we should foster indie games that do that. But I'm not necessarily saying indie games have to do that.
Okay. Well, I mean, so I guess we're just going to differ on what the thing with indie games is...
I guess, like, what is your problem with Going Home?
Well, one, it doesn't sound like... Well, let's then get to the whole being a real game thing. But, like, it sounded like...
It is as much a game as Shenmue is a game. You are going around and looking through things and unlocking story. And,
I didn't play Shenmue, so...
Okay. Well, I feel like, a lot... That is a very divisive game, too. But, like...
I need to play it. Right, I need to play it to be able to say whether or not. And again, that's a whole other topic.
And I totally understand. There are some people who feel like Gone Home was praised too much by critics this year, and I can see that. Like, it was definitely a critical darling, and it was talked about a lot. But it was really good. I mean, like, I thought it was a really good quality writing and a good experience, and the voice acting was really great, and it...
But what about something like Papers, Please? Like, was that even... Oh, that wasn't out. I don't think
that was last year, right?
Was that last year?
Well, it's tricky sometimes, because sometimes these games exist as Flash titles before they are created.
I'm almost positive Papers, Please was this year. But we're both looking it up.
This makes for really good radio, by the way.
Yes, it does. So... Because that game, I haven't played the full version.
Yeah, it came out August 8th.
Of this year?
Yeah, I just knew that it existed as a Flash game before it came out, and I didn't know when that came out.
I don't think it was full, though.
Okay.
I think there was a demo. They've been a demo for a long time. I've only played the demo, and I really liked it. And people talk about how that game makes them feel basically bad, because you have to choose between, like, letting people in and feeding your family, and those people that you're letting in or denying have their own problems, and they're begging you, my son's in this country, you have to let me in, he's very sick, whatever. So,
I think...
Was that even a nominee?
I don't know if it was a nominee, but I think the reason it didn't win is because empathy games are so 2012, I don't know. There was, Cart Life won, like, swept everything last year. And
I still don't even know what that game's about.
It's similar in that it has a similar artistic aesthetic, and you play somebody who has to basically have a grindy job, but you experience the decisions that they have to make. Like, for instance, you pick one of 3 characters that runs a cart in a lower income area, like a hot dog cart or a news cart or whatever. And these people have stories. Like, one of the women is fighting to get custody of her child back, so that she has to raise up enough money to prove that she has this stable job and she can get her kid back. And then once you get the kid back, you have to manage getting her to school and like getting medicine. So it's a single mom who's and you have to quit smoking, and you have to basically manage all the food, and sometimes you have to not have food, and so that you can give your kid food, and then you work poorly the next day because you're tired. Like there's things like that. Like, and it was really good. And Cart Life won everything last year, and I think maybe the reason Papers, Please didn't get the traction it did is because like there was some similarities to that. It's like it was a retro aesthetic empathy game, but Papers, Please was good. I liked it too. So I'm going to look up indie game nomination.
So yeah, I mean that's one of the main reasons I want to play Gone Home, is just so that I can try it and see, what the big deal.
But everybody loved Gone Home, so it's not a surprise to me that it won. Like, to me, it's
I don't know. Like I hear a lot of people loved it, but I hear a lot of people were like, this was very boring. Like, and I can understand why some people would think that way.
Okay.
About any kind of game.
Brothers didn't even get nominated.
Really?
Yeah. The best independent game nominees are Gone Home, Kentucky Route Zero, Papers, Please, and Stanley Parable. I've only played Gone Home and Papers, Please. I haven't played Kentucky Route Zero or Stanley Parable. But I don't know. It's really hard to compare like the best indie game,
right? Because
often the metrics for what make it good, no one can agree on that discussion. Like we're like right now.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to say like best action game or best, you know, you could basically just go by the book and like, these are the games I've played and these are the mechanics that work, and I understand how games should work. And you can say things like, oh, the checkpoints were all screwed up in that game, and that would hurt it. But an indie game is trying to do different things that could resonate with you and could hit and could make sense to you. And if they don't, you can rate an indie game based on how well it pulls off its mechanics, or you can rate it based on the other factors of how it makes you feel, and I can see how people wouldn't agree on that.
Yeah. So what happened? What else happened at VGX?
They did announce 2 more Telltale titles.
Yes.
So Borderlands 2 is going to have a Telltale game, and
don't care.
They're going to do a Game of Thrones Telltale.
That's
game.
What I care about.
Yeah. Do you think Telltale's stretching themselves too thin?
They might be.
And that's a lot of.
I will also say that they haven't made a public declaration as far as the YouTube monetization. So get on it, Telltale.
But I think they have. They are probably that's going to be the hardest for them because they have some of the least interactive games.
Then make your games fun to play.
Well, that doesn't. I guess that's my opinion. Is that lack of interactivity doesn't necessarily mean it's not good. I mean,
well, no. I mean, I've said multiple times. I think Walking Dead was a very.
You just
very
think it could be more fun.
Yeah, it's not. It's pushing the boundaries of what I would call a game, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean in this is not really a game. I'm just kind of clicking around and making decisions type of thing. Like, but, I mean, I'm expecting next year.
There are time decisions that inform where the story goes. So you are controlling a character.
You're controlling a character, but the gameplay, like, there's no.
You're making decisions that affect the narrative.
Right. But you know what else does that? Choose your own adventure books.
Yeah.
I mean, next year, are we going to see Adobe CS7 up for Game of the Year? Because, it gives you a lot of creative freedom and you can do what you want. And that's the thing. That's my problem with grossly expounding what the border of like what a game is. Because I'm seeing so many indie games that are like nothing.
With questioning what a game is. I think that's a good thing to do. I think we should always be like, what's a game? Like, I don't know. Like,
I don't have a problem with that. It's like making these games that, air quotes, where like you don't do anything. Like it's an experience. Like the keys were
that would win indie game of the year if you made a game where you literally did nothing.
That probably
and there's
would
a black
win.
screen, and you say, this is the new Helen Keller sim. Like,
and it was
luck.
like all it did was give you like yes or no answers. Like you couldn't do anything. Mm-hmm. Like, now is this the game? Because while I'm interacting with it, I'm saying yes or no. So it's like,
but this is in similar ways to the conversations people have about modern art. Like, people make a lot of modern art, and it could elicit emotion from somebody, but somebody could look at it and be like, "That's just dumb. That's bullshit." Like, art needs to do this, this, and this. And I mean, I'm not necessarily saying anyone's wrong about it, but I think it's good to have conversations about that, because there is a lot of modern art that is total bullshit. And it's like, modern art does get a pass a lot of times. Like, oh, you glued together those 4 stereos and glued it against a wall? Like, that's not doing anything for me, But you could also put together an exhibit that does use creative found objects and explain it, and then somebody would be like, I get it, and that makes me feel something. So, I don't know. I think any medium has to go through this phase where people are like, that's not a game, or that's not a movie, that's not a this. Like,
it seems like a lot of people are okay. Like, if this is graphical and you interact with it in any way, shape, or form, oh, now it's a game. Like,
I mean, what else would you call it?
I don't know, but like, we need like a new term, like art game. That way, it's like you can still call it a game, but people are like, it's not really a game.
Just
but
an
it's
understanding.
Art. Yeah, it's
that's
not really.
Yeah.
But and again, I don't really get too hung up on it, because, and even when I say things like, I don't think Walking Dead, I wouldn't classify it as really a game. It doesn't matter, because I love it, and I would still, I still do recommend it to people, because I think it's great and I think it's worth experiencing. Mm-hmm. But I think there's definitely an argument to be made that it's not what I would. If you tie me down and said, is Walking Dead a game or is it not? I would say yes, but probably like just barely. Like, it's
okay. Well, we'll do that on next week. We're going to tie you down and ask you that question. So.
Yeah. Well, I just answered it, so I don't know if it's necessary.
But barely.
Yeah. But the Telltale's Game of Thrones, whether it's a game or interactive storyboard, I don't care, because I am a huge Game of Thrones fanboy.
I think they're coming out of that at the right moment, because like the Game of Thrones fever pitch is as high as it's ever been. So
yeah, and only one of us has read or watched the show. I'm going to mention which one of it is, but I have read all the books and seen the show. Or I haven't read the books. I'm
use your deduction on that one.
Yeah. Good. We'll have a quiz. Which one of us has not done it? But actually, I read books 1 through 4. And I've went through them again in preparation for Dance for Dragons, and I'm about to actually just start that. So I'm a huge fan. Like, I know way more about Westeros history than I do like American history. So it's kind of shameful.
That's what's great about like Wikipedia. If you look up, something like Game of Thrones Wikipedia page is like longer than the page on Poland.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And it's just, I absolutely love the world, love the history, love the characters. So I'm absolutely looking forward to it. I don't think, listening to the interview and just kind of looking at Telltale and kind of reasonably analyzing it, I don't think it's going to be a case where you're playing as any of the main characters. I mean, you might see them, you might see the king talk or whatever, but I don't think you'll be playing as any of the main characters. Probably maybe some like lord somewhere, maybe a knight. That would make sense if you play at a knight, or even you played like a group of commoners or something like that. But it'll be interesting to see what they do, because I don't think Martin is going to give them like, just do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be it does. You can go against canon, whatever. You do whatever. So it'll be interesting to see, given how much I like Walking Dead. I'm very excited to see what they do with the Game of Thrones game / whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm totally, like, when they announced that, I was like, Yes, I was like, that was the most exciting. Like the most exciting thing from that whole thing was the Game of Thrones Telltale game for me, because Game of Thrones is my Doctor Who / Star Trek / Star Wars.
It's your jam.
That's my jam.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that pretty much sums up this week. It's this one clocked in a little longer. We got a total of one person's feedback that said he liked long podcasts. So
100% of the votes.
Yep. This is in response to that. So this is only the beginning. Where we're going to be, cruising along at 7-8 hour long podcasts. So.
And it still didn't cover half the stuff that we wrote down to talk about.
We wrote down other things to talk about. We had to cut. So
next week,
I don't think we're going to have to worry about podcast length.
Next week, I do want to talk about kind of forecasting here. I definitely want to talk about the status of, or the state of things as far as being a gamer and how great it is to be a gamer right now, but how rough it is to be an independent developer.
Yeah. There's a lot of competition there.
Yeah, tons of competition. But anyway, that's for next week.
Yep. A little sneak peek for you guys.
Get hype.
Yep. Get hype. You guys have a good weekend. And see you guys in a week.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Malachi VT. That's MALACHAIVT. Or just search Twitter for Vertigo Tea Party.
And I'm Capanius, CAPANE_US on Twitter, and CAPANE.US from my blog.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Have a good one.